Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. Now, continuing from where we left off last time, I think we're in chapter 4, I think. But anyways, let's just continue. And I also have a T here. Yeah, Blue's in her name. Oh, and for once, before this, before booting up the game, it gave me a warning saying, "This game contains depictions of violence and scenes of a disturbing nature." I'd never seen that before, so maybe I'll have to put that in the description of the videos later on, but last episode was pretty tame, so let's just carry on. There really isn't any other way of saying this. I am a magician, or mage. Well, that's actually the same thing, I guess. Kind of like those witches in fairy tales who live alone in the woods and perform miracles with the wave of a finger. While the popular depiction of it differs from reality, it's closer to the truth than you know. Though, just so we're clear, no, I don't fly through the sky on a broom. I cannot transform into animals or speak with small birds. Modern mages are nothing so fanciful. Our existence sounds unbelievable, but we're quite grounded. Though it may seem like we can do anything, we're actually majorly constrained. Well, I still have a lot to learn about it. This is my real job. Sounds a lot more romantic than being a high school student, right? Naturally, this is a secret I don't just share with anyone. A mage must do everything in their power to conceal their work. That is the first and most important of the Association's 10 laws. Not that I'm tempted to let the cat out of the bag in the least. My secret identity as an honest student is intact, and absolutely no good would come of me revealing my true nature. If anything, it would only lead to more headaches. That's why I do everything in my power to keep it a secret. You're blasting a mannequin into ash just in the middle of a park. I don't know if that's very secret. Of course, if I'd accomplished anything as a magician by now, then maybe I'd see it differently. I've fantasized about revealing my secret life's work to a single special person when I finally make something of myself. Yeah, it'd be pretty stellar to just confess one day. By the way, I'm a magician. That idea alone is enough to keep me from spoiling the big reveal, regardless of the Association's rules. Association. My grandfather patted me on the head when I shared these thoughts with him. I don't know if that was praise or what, but I remember that his touch was gentle. Oh, yeah. I first learned that I would be succeeding my grandfather on the day I graduated middle school. When I returned home, there he was. Your elder sister left on a journey. From this day forth, you are the heir to the Azaki. He said it in such a matter-of-fact way. I knew that the Azaki family passed down this old tradition of magecraft, but to be honest, I never imagined I would be the one to wield it. Magecraft is supposed to be passed down to a single child. It was my sister's role to take the mantle, and I had no interest in dedicating myself to so many rules and routines. I planned to live a normal life. I had hopes and dreams for the future. I felt bad for my sister, but I was determined to live my life my way. While I managed to do just that for a time, I was blindsided by a vicious counterpunch. Since then, I've been thrust headlong into a world I had only observed from afar. It was a hell of a way to start high school, but I suppose it wasn't all that bad, all things considered. A lot has happened since then. I was so dazed by this newfound life that a year of school motored right by. I was a second year before I knew it. Thankfully, nothing drastic has happened. 6 months, my roommate and I totally tried to kill each other notwithstanding. As it happens, I've got a natural talent at this magic stuff, so I've yet to have any hang-ups there either. I'm only human, so I've had my fair share of headaches for sure, but never once did I worry about my future. Thought my life would be smooth sailing all the way. If only everything had gone to plan last night. Hoo-hoo, oh boy. Yes, you were seen. Now we know who saw her. Well, Alice Quanji asked Aoko Aozaki the second she entered the house. But Aoko succeeded where her voice failed to communicate the gravity of the situation. Aoko took off her unflattering coat, hung it on the hanger, and sat down on the sofa. Alice sat across from her with a table separating them. Any progress with those things? Not at all. I've only got 7 left that are any good that are only good for reconnaissance, but using them up fast, no one had time to make more. Alice's gaze drifted from Alco to the box on the table. Oh, reflection, interesting. Were none of them keeping watch that night? I've never let you down when it comes to this sort of thing, have they? During the day, no, but there is quite the risk when flying them at night. Meaning they were of the least use when needed the most, Alco sighed. Well, how are you feeling? You seem pretty confident this morning. Yeah, I guess everything's good on my end. Pretty sure I'll know by tomorrow. I told Tomorrow to look into all the students' addresses and schedules. None people wander the park that time of night, so it should be easy enough to figure out who it was. How can you be so sure? Because I didn't just join the student council to keep up appearances. I used my position to keep tabs on everyone. I even found everything from part-time jobs to friends' addresses to what they're up to in their spare time. That's creepy. It's a list I was hoping to keep secret, but we can't afford to do that now, can we? That's why I keep the vice president around. It's the kind of thing he does best. Incidentally, the creation of the secret file started the moment Alco became student council president. What if it was him? It's not, but what if it was? The mere rumor of its existence was enough to strike fear into the entire student body. As thorough as always, I see you. Alice was only mildly surprised. It had been almost 2 years since they first started living together. She knew as well as anyone that when Alco put her mind to something, she saw it right through to the end. Well, I never met an interviews like this, but it's better to be safe than sorry. What happened last night was far beyond a mere exception to the rule. This predicament had not even been possible. Oh! Yeah, true, it was a bounded field, so no one should have been able to be in there in the first place. There's something special about him, too. More importantly, have you figured out what went wrong? And don't tell me it had anything to do with your link to the bounded field. Alco glared at her. The ward was Alice's responsibility. If it was to blame for last night's trouble, Alice had to own up to her fair share. Alice and Alco may have been roommates and partners, but it was a relationship of convenience. While lineage had brought them together, they were more like enemies than allies. Ultimately, they were just not a match. Where there was a blunder, it was punished. Where there was an opening, it would be attacked. If there was even an opportunity, the two of them would kill each other in the event of such a moment. Alice locked eyes with Alco. Alco's fierce gaze could make a grown man cower in fear, but Alice did not bat an eyelash. Assuming the battlefield was the problem, wouldn't this have happened countless times before? I suppose you're right, Alco agreed as the question reaffirmed her trust in Alice. So you're saying there was nothing wrong with it? I honestly can't say for sure. Alice answered as flatly as ever. A bounded field is like a sanctuary sealed away from the real world. Steps taken whereby a certain area is cut off from the outside world. There are various kinds of bounded fields. There are physical ones that close off an area behind a wall, and less tangible ones that use mirrors, mist, or trees to conceal that which occurs within. However, when closing off an area to the outside world, you cannot avoid communicating the abnormality's existence. In other words, the area may be closed off to the outside world, but it is impossible to hide the fact that it is closed off. In time, someone will take interest in a sealed-off area, even if they cannot see what is going on inside. Some might say this is putting the cart before the horse. The ideal field would be one that was both undetectable and impervious to interference from the outside. That was exactly the kind Alice had generated in the park the night before. Even if someone has a reason to enter players, they shouldn't enter if you have made them forget their reason for being there. It takes an immense amount of time and energy to create a field that produces a temporary illusion around a location you wish to conceal, but they prove extremely effective for at least an hour or so, right? And to top it all, it was top class, made from your mirrors, and it's not like they shattered while we were using it. The only other presence I found inside was that of the puppet. If there isn't a perfectly constructed bounded field, then what is? I have no idea. The trees were prepared perfectly. I cultivated the trees and plants over several days, and it's always proved to be a reliable field, but maybe, just maybe, there was something I didn't account for. Though Alice's words conceded the possibility, her eyes expressed her confidence that she had overlooked nothing. Well, crap. In that case, a bit of hope that the witness was the puppeteer, which makes sense. The mage would probably be able to penetrate it. Something else puzzles me, though. How did he avoid detection? The thought of being targeted by this individual was pretty terrifying. I don't think he's targeting you. I gotta be real. If they were able to penetrate Ellis's field, it can only mean that their skill in magecraft was superior to Ellis's. Maybe, but how? He doesn't even know, does he? Takes me back to that red-haired lady with the glasses that Sojiro saw in that like the cafe or mall or something. The place he worked. The casino rather, yes, the casino. Brings me back to her. Maybe she's the pub master, who knows? It was him in the field though, so Alice, in her current state, would be completely helpless against such a foe. We're determined that it was not a mage. This was most certainly an outsider. The starlings are one thing, but not even Robin was able to follow him. There were no traces of magical energy, so that rules out a magical pawn. Alko was quickly running out of straws to grasp at. That meant she was out of questions to ask. All she could do was call it bad luck and leave it at that. First you found out that you're a mage, then you let the witness get away. Why couldn't I just have been in normal high school problems? Why couldn't I just have normal high school problems? The sofa groaned as she leaned back, her gaze went up to the brown ceiling with a sigh. It wasn't much of a view, she was becoming increasingly depressed. Okay, make up your mind. Her roommate's voice sounded indifferent, but Alko just kept staring up at the wooden ceiling. Been up to the task and take care of it myself. The cool-mannered girl's statement carried an equally icy implication. Alko took the words in slowly, with as much sincerity as she could muster. It was like trying to swallow molten lead. She's right, and I've already made up my mind. The thought sounded hollow even as it popped into her head. This was clearly different from last time. While the aim was indeed the same, the circumstances surrounding the target were clearly different. She may have been determined before, but that was as a mage. If enemies emerged, she would kill them. She was challenged, she would step up to the fight. It was a fight between two mages, and her opponent was in the wrong. Even if this could only end in death for one of them, it was an outcome both parties could accept. Kill or be killed. Morality had no weight in this scale. But this time it was different. Her opponent was neither enemy nor mage. Even if she was prepared to kill them, this person was likely not ready to die. That's why morality did factor into it now. Was she truly up to the task of murdering an innocent person? Could she swallow the fact that this was a common occurrence for a mage? She snorted sardonically. Being a mage did not mean that Alko was some kind of monk who could cut ties with the real world in a whim. If there was one thing Alko hated, it was doing things without conviction or an understanding of exactly why she was doing them. When she acted, she preferred to act decisively. I guess I don't have any other choice. As she said it, she got up from the sofa, having had her fill of the ceiling for one day. Alko had returned to the alcove of always, and Alice was done probing her. Take this. As if to reward her, Alice produced a small bottle. It fit neatly in the palm of her hand. The bottle looked completely out of place in her slender fingers. The glass was cloudy and it appeared empty. Some shreds of paper remained on the front, where there was once a label. What's that? Alko stared at the bottle suspiciously. It's a storage bottle. I want to spare, so I'm giving it to you. What? I forgot what it's called, but it's a thing out of a Chinese novel. Alko was miraculously able to pass what Alice meant. You saying this is the red drinking gourd from the story about the two brothers who guarded the Lotus Cave? Don't take this in the wrong way, but it looks like your everyday medicine bottle with the label ripped off. Alice looked at the bottle and acknowledged how ordinary it looked. She also understood that she would not be the one using it as she set it on the table. Except this is a jade flask, not a red drinking gourd. That's not the problem. The problem is maintaining my dignity as a mage. Oops, that could have been bad. Don't get stuck on the details. Just be happy I'm not a bottle of laxatives. Fine. She made a good point. Did she now? She opens the lid and asks for the person's name. Be careful, because if the target is resistant, the bottle will shatter. Alko raised her eyebrows. Hang on, if he's resistant, I'm going to use it when he's asleep, right? Never tried it, to be honest. Is there anyone who responds to things in their sleep? You'd be surprised. But true, people like that are rare. In that case, one would have to weaken them until they were about to pass out. Oh, I almost forgot. Drugs and magecraft will also cause the bottle to break. What good is it? Won't break the damn thing. A tool is only as good as the person using it. Alice turned away as she replied, as if the topic no longer mattered to her. I know you're fond of using dainty tools like this. Is it a hobby of yours or something? Alco asked, hoping Alice would deny it. Perhaps. So, you're going to take it or leave it? Without answering, Alco dithered a bit before taking the bottle and putting it in her pocket. She figured she might be able to find some use for it. 2 hours had passed and the clock struck 9. The conversation had moved from the drawing room to the sunroom and had manifested into the kind of scene one would not expect in such a mansion. To be honest, I didn't really want to leave it to tomorrow like this. A hot, earthenware pot sat on the table. Alco spat out complaints, no one in particular. She plucked food from it with her chopsticks. Tonight they were eating a traditional Japanese meal that looked out of place in this mansion. When it came to the kind of Japanese hot pot where all one had to do was buy and boil ingredients, it was usually Alco's responsibility. Alice sat across from Alco as she silently poked at the pot with a fork. It was Sarah at a point said that Suzuki hadn't joined the club. It's not like I have the time or energy to keep track of every single student. The egg she had plucked was still as silky as a baby's ball. She returned it to the pot. She settled. That's a frickin'. I believe it's a Simpsons reference. I believe. She settled for the shirataki noodles instead. I already know that the idiot is constantly busy with his jobs. That's why I try my best to set him up with a club activity captain that'd be accommodating. But never the guy, not even a thanks. Are you even listening, Alice? As if her mouth was full, she simply nodded in response. Her suspicion stated that she had no interest, no opinion on the matter, but she at least appeared to be listening. Satisfied, Alco nibbled on some hand-pinned fish cake. Fish! Just can't trust anyone who says he's a great guy. Surprise, even Topomaru was gushing about him. The thing he's great at is being an airhead. I mean, there's really something wrong with his brain if he didn't get angry after what I said. Her thoughts went into what had happened in the student council room earlier that day. She remembered how non-responsive Sojiro had been to her words. His unconcerned face alone was enough for her to swallow the rest of her hand-pen without chewing it. I thought you would understand, he says. Ha! His words are a lot like those that ended childhood. No, don't you, Alco? Through it all, you never lose sight of who you are. You're so strong. Perhaps meant as a compliment, but she took it as a patronizing way to pity her, because the person who said it had acted like she was looking at a wounded animal. Whatever, who cares what that weirdo thinks or says? That episode might have made her the most confused she had ever been in her life, yet what shocked young Alco was the look of pity on the face of the person she admired the most. You fought. Huh? The abrupt comment stopped her in her tracks. Sorry, what did you say? Something about a fight? Alice nodded. I can't say I completely understand from what you said, but it does come across as if you were trying to pick a fight with him. Alice bit into the very last handpin. Her remark was unexpected, but completely on point. Why did you go there? I'd rather die than spend another second with him. I mean, seriously, gross, I'm not interested in him whatsoever. Love it if I never had to say anything about him ever again. So I will talk about him. True. What? I was just reporting on today's investigation. Something wrong with that? What other reason could Alice be suggesting Alco for bringing it up? It would be several hours later in bed that Alco realized that she had dug her own grave. No, not really. But does he really bother you that much? Alice ate her hot pot in silence as if she was honoring some sort of sacred ritual. Her face was indifferent as always, but she was secretly enjoying how flustered Alco was. Alco remained oblivious to this. Normally, she would have noticed immediately, but she was not quite herself at this moment. Does he really? Oh, of course he does. I think we've said that often enough. Okay, what specifically about him do you dislike? Huh? I had any specific reason to. She trailed off as she finally realized how disagreeable she was being. She could come up with no reason why. Her instincts had told her that she was incompatible with that hick. Why such a strong reaction? More than anything in the world, Alco hated emotions without reason and decisions made with no rationale. I just don't like him. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, I think. She became more flustered the more she talked. Unfortunately for her, she could not come up with a coherent reason to hate Sojiro Suzuki. It was not his fault that he had zero common sense. It was the fault of the environment he grew up in. In fact, it was admirable that he was trying so hard to adapt to civilized society. As clueless as he might seem, he was not a complete waste of space. If he seemed a bit slow, it was only because his gentle nature compelled him to think before acting. When no one looked at everything objectively, the conclusion was obvious. As much as she was loath to admit it, he really was unassuming do-gooder everyone had him pegged as. I can't believe what I'm thinking. Is there really nothing wrong with him? There was plenty, so she left it at that for now. The chopsticks she had been using came to a stop. She was getting very annoyed. An irrational hatred bent through her head, and able to come to terms with her feelings, she desperately tried to analyze Sojiro, but her mind only went in more circles. Alice fixed Alco with a deadpan stare. I'm shocked. A small sigh. Doesn't like you. Those words were the final blow. Alco felt the floor fall out from underneath her. Ha ha ha. L. She was unable to leave her chair until long after Alice had finished eating and left. However, even after getting knocked down, Kawasaki was not one to be kept that way. She made short work of clearing up after dinner and, after conceding the first part of the night to Alice, left the drawing room. Since it was customary in these sorts of mansions to turn the lights off when leaving an empty room, the only lit areas of the house were the drawing room and the two girls' bedrooms. The upstairs was enveloped in darkness. Alco briskly made her way to the deepest part of the beast, going along the long corridor, illuminated only by the light of the moon, and arrived at her room. All being said, sneak attacks make me sick to my stomach. She'd been considering this on the way down the corridor, or perhaps ever since she left the drawing room. The moment she entered her room, she drew her proverbial line in the sand. I'm going to do it face to face. I'll give it to him straight. This was not a concession driven by feelings of sympathy or compassion. For her, this was simply the way things ought to be. Okay, with that out of the way. After settling her resolve, she headed to the study next door. Let's see, there's a shelf, went to Solstice, green spine. The hesitation, she removed one book from the countless volumes on the shelf. The introductory textbooks transported here from the Yazaki residence were separated into 6 shelves, labelled Monday to Saturday. Not 7. Alco had organised the books by topic, genre, and purpose, and had more or less memorised exactly what was in her personal library. Referencing any of this material took her no time at all. It was to be expected from keeper of the study. Though this keeper's fiefdom was nothing more than a small room, both Alco and Alice had given up all hope on the cluttered mess of a library in the annex. Nevertheless, on occasion, Alco would have no option other than to give Alice a heads up and visit it when the study did not meet her needs. I don't have to go over there now. Alco placed the thick green book down and took a seat. The desk she sat at. The desk she sat at was sturdy but uninviting. It wasn't the sort of furniture girls her age grew attached to, but she liked its minimalist elegance nonetheless. She flipped lightly through the book's old, worn pages. I still can't manage anything like Alice's bounded field. Guess I just have to find a place off the beaten track. The mountains, the woods, the school building empty at night. She was looking for a place that would be, except for the worst of luck, void of people. I'm going to forego the use of magecraft. Walls of thorns and magical mists are so indirect. I want to cut off any route of escape and do some place flashing obvious, both in purpose and in looks. Muttering about how there had to be some basic spell that fit her needs, she continued to flip through the pages. If it goes without saying that she was looking for a way to deal with the witness from the previous night. Magecraft's uses were many, but not all-encompassing. Fundamentally, magecraft was good for making things or phenomena that existed already, while more or less bypassing the time and resources conventional means would require. It was, however, unable to manifest phenomena that were impossible in this world. It was essentially an equivalent exchange that used a variety of shortcuts. A phenomenon made possible by human hands, actualized by an individual's power. That was generally what magecraft was. To give a simple example, if Alco was so inclined, she could make an entire lake appear at the mansion. However, it had to be something that existed within this world. Nothing, not even the smallest matter, could escape this unbreakable law. I see. Even if Alco were to release a level of heat on par with an F-15 fighter jet's afterburner, that event would only be possible if the circuit named Alco Izaki acted as a temporary input variable in a magical formula. I don't understand a single thing you just spewed at me, but it sounds cool. The derived equivalence was simply a value that already occurred in reality. If the variable in the equation did not exist somewhere in reality, the spell would not be valid. The imaginary element, known as magical energy, was like a lie that could only slip its fantasy through the network order at the moment of ignition. Giving form to the non-existent, illusions invading reality, was something the universe did not allow. So, what was it? You can combine the imaginary factor, ether, with pretty much anything else that is not real itself. Anything composed entirely of magical energy is little more than an illusion and will quickly dissipate. Even a typical field like a wall of thorns generally starts with the use of planting the thorns first before using magical energy to grow and strengthen them in an instant. In the end, magical energy is such an easy-to-use fuel source, which, while acting as a firework, ignites a phenomenon. Oh, so they say. Imaginary factors are all well and good, but all I can do is connect a basic circuit and process energy into a projectile. Laughing to herself, she looked for a bounded field, or something similar, more suited to her current ability. The identity of the witness was still unknown, but if they were a classmate of Akko's, she had any number of pretexts by which to lure them out. The problem was after that. It becomes a question of precision, and take care of him in one blow he might slip away. To be honest, she wasn't confident she could handle this smoothly without Alice's support. But Alco saw no reason to ask for help, given that the target in question was a regular bystander. Fledgling as she was, she still had her pride as a mage. She continued to turn through the pages rhythmically. In the midst of the fluttering sound of the thumbing through the volume, Alco suddenly stopped her finger at a certain page. Found it. Miskita. I don't know if I said that right, but I think I put too much sugar in this tea. She smiled to herself. It was a simple formula that she had tucked away somewhere in the recesses of her memory. As a bell of simple destruction. A cage, that's all I need to make. It's the oldest trick in the book that any hunter worth their salt would use. I see. She placed a bookmark in the book, closed it, and got up to return to her room. Suddenly she felt someone watching her. Through the window she saw her in the night, a girl staring back with a cold-hearted expression. The girl's face was hers, the expression undoubtedly her own. Who began planning how to erase the witness. To say it was something as elaborate as a plan was overkill. This was just a job. She was going to make a cage, then lure her prey into it. There's no getting around it, premeditated violence. Wonder if Alice is done with her bath. She mumbled out loud as if the bath would return some warmth to her chilled heart. About 20 minutes passed, and she gave Alice the privilege of using the hot water first. Alice tended to bathe quickly, finishing well under 10 minutes. Her roommate was the type that could not understand the spirit of the bath, treating it as nothing more than a necessity for looking after one's body. For Alice, the concept of staying at a hot spring inn sounded more like a chore than anything, though in this regard Alco had to agree. It was my time to... Huh? Is that the drawing room light on? It was unusual for Alice to sit in the drawing room after her bath. On nights when she had nothing to discuss, it was her style to return directly to her bedroom. Alice, are you in here? Alice nodded. With no book in hand, it appeared that Alice had been waiting for Alco. So that's how it is. She really has no faith in me, does she? Alco scratched her head in exasperation. Was it that Alice was worried about her or had no faith in her? Her expression was so calm, Alco could hardly figure out what she was thinking. I have a plan. Want to hear it? I can tell what it is by the look on your face. It's good that you're no longer wavering, but you must do something about that tail of yours, Alco. Alice let out a small sigh. It was unusual for Alice to make such a display of her disappointment. I don't like sneaky attacks. I'm going to do a feeling, and only after I've told him straight to his face. That way, there will be absolutely no trouble later. Any complaints? Why would I have any? This is really only a matter of personal preference, after all. However, you're worried that I mess up, right? My accuracy hasn't exactly been stellar lately, so I was thinking about how to cover my bases with the location. I can't throw up a field like I can't exactly throw up a field like you, so I was thinking of doing it somewhere where he physically can't escape. Any ideas? Alice nodded in thought. The finger that gently rested on her lips indicated that the question was to her liking. Mirrors. You could easily seal them in the house of mirrors for all eternity. Seriously, that's your idea? She frowned at Alice's bad taste. It was the kind of idea her roommate found to be inspired, but Alco knew was out of the question. Alco was looking for a natural rounded field she could prepare, not a realm bordering on true magic that she couldn't create to begin with. Then you'll choose otherwise, I suppose, but please do. Whatever you do, do not bring him here. Don't need to tell me that. But actually, yeah, house mirrors might actually work. Alco smirked and shifted her balance away from the wall she was resting on. Thanks, Alice. I was just figuring out the whole plan. It's always best to talk to someone when you're in a bind. Now in good mood, Alco retreated from the drawing room. Alice tried and failed to visualize what kind of blueprint Alco had drawn up in her mind, but whatever it was, it appeared to be the thorough kind Alco was good at. Alco headed for the bathroom, humming to herself as she went. A year and a half of sharing a living space had taught Alice something. When Alco Aozaki was in this good of a mood, only deep trouble could follow. You want to know if I'm okay with letting Alco handle this on her own? It was unclear how long the bird had been in the drawing room. Chirping at Alice, the robin-like bird pranced across the furniture as if it were its property. Yes, I suppose she said that she wanted to do it alone, and I do want her to know she has my every faith. Still, the girl in black raised her arm. The bird, chirping once again, alighted on her outstretched affectionate finger. Suffice to say, trust and faith are two very different things. The bird puffed out a stout chest in agreement, and Alco was none the wiser to her roommate's rather unsettling comments. Oh boy. The following day was a typically overcast one. Today's classes ended as they had started, uneventfully. Winter break was just around the corner, and with it, final exams. Although Misaki High prided itself on discipline, it was still a private school which promoted a culture of independence among its students. Industrious students had a place to explore that side of themselves under the guardianship of the student council president. More easygoing students could spend their time after school as they wished, as long as they were mindful of personal responsibility. The fact that the poster boy of independence was the student council vice president indicated just how vast the spectrum was. You in here? Tomaro Tsukiji threw open the door to the satellite student council room, the rumored location for their secret meetings. Despite all appearances, he was the student council vice president, who also happened to be the poor soul responsible for executing the student council's dirty work. One person was waiting for him in the cramped room. Student council president Alco Aozaki sat imperiously in a folding chair, glaring at Tomaro and his boisterous entrance. This room is freezing as usual. We really need to buy a heater. So as not to succumb to Alco's oppressive silence, Tomaro opened with some casual small talk. Thank you for coming. Let's get down to business. You know why I've asked you here? I have an idea. What's up with the formality? Pretty cold to talk shop right away all the time, you know? Tomaro closed the door and sat down across from Alco. He was holding a blue envelope. Yeah, and loose lips sink ships. What? Might remember that once you get out into the real world. Alright, I'll remember. Wait a sec. Nice try. Tomaro was halfway to agreeing with Alco before he caught himself and began to shake his head. As much as Tomaro enjoyed the lack of red tape in his new line of work, he was not ready to turn full spy on his first day in the job. So then, are you done with your investigation? Yeah, I finished the last interview just now. Details are in the envelope along with the file you gave me. He tossed the envelope onto the table. Good. Alco picked it up and began to scan through the documents that were inside. She entered her own little world, not sparing the slightest bit of attention for Tomaro. If ignoring other people were a skill, she would be a master at it. What? I just wanted to ask one thing. Yeah, and? The room was filled with a chilling silence. Alco continued reading without an ounce of emotion upon her face. Though Tomaro kept up an air of indifference, his stare remained fixed intently on her. Do you get a kick out of doing this kind of thing? Of course not. What's so fun about gathering intel I hardly ever get to use? Right, just wanted to check. Whether or not he was convinced, Tomaro stood up from his chair with a disappointed expression. You'll figure this out just by reading it all, but I wasn't able to dig up anything conclusive. No indications that there weren't any students in the area the day before yesterday. So like I can say that for sure, though. No longer concerned over his task, Tomoe headed toward the door. Safe to say it was out of his hands. Oh, and one more thing. There was one student that wasn't included in the dragnet. He forgot to include in the out-of-term transfers. Alco raised her head ever so slightly. He was right, the recent transfer student was not included within the scope of our investigation. So I haven't looked at Synergy. Though considering it's him, it's safe to assume that he was working late. Oh wait, it would be if he hadn't mentioned something about seeing murder or whatever. I told him that it was probably just a bad dream. Tomoe cheerfully left the student council room. Bro just gave him away, bro. What? Simultaneously, Alco felt her fingers go numb, and the document she was holding spilled all over the table. It can't be. That's not possible. She broke out into a cold sweat and tried to tell herself that there must be some kind of mistake. However, the uncomfortable feeling in her gut would simply not go away, perhaps because her intuition was almost right at times like these. You gotta be kidding me. And yet she knew what she had to do. She would not have hesitated to kill Tomoe if he had been the witness. But what if it was who she was thinking of? Just considering the possibility caused her blood to run ice cold. Alco put her forehead in her hands and began to brood. And then, suddenly... Let us talk choice. You will always be faced with choices. A virtuous fool and a wicked sage, you cannot save both. You must pick one. That is the freedom granted to you. 2 years earlier, Alco muttered the words offered by her grandfather the day she replaced her elder sister as his successor, let out a sigh of lament. That has to be a joke. She laughed at her own intuition. But it was no joke, if only those words had never been said. Alco locked up the student council room and left for the day. Calmly, as though nothing untoward had happened, she greeted the students as they passed her in the halls. She was almost shocked by how natural she seemed. Yeah. There were still plenty of students at the school. The grounds were noisy with the chattering of students who had finished the day but had yet to head home. Others still had club activities. The grey sky looked ready to pour, but nobody seemed to pay it any mind. Amidst the clamour, Alco had hastened to the school gate. She passed by some students in animated conversation. They seemed to be talking about their after-school plans. Apparently, they were adamant about maximising their free time. She could not figure out how they could possibly be so responsibly focused on fun, but at the same time was in no mood to make fun or feel envious of them. 2 short years prior, she'd been just like them. I was completely desensitized to it all. She retied her scarf, this time more tightly to give off an air of solitude, but she was fooling no one. After all, what people who feign solitude are really masking is rejection. Solitude and rejection, they're 2 sides of the same coin. The area by the school gate was busier than usual. A group of boys appeared to be huddled behind it. Their transparent attempt to be discreet in terms of both location and loudness of voices did nothing to hide the fact that they were noisily arguing about a girl standing alone on the other side of the street. What the fuck was she doing there? The girl was cloaked in a black cape. At first glance, it could have been mistaken for normal attire, but those from Misaki could tell that she wore the uniform of a prestigious girls' school. Said school had no connection to Misaki High in any way, in shape or form. 2 schools were miles apart, both physically and spiritually. A member of that school's student body was a rare sighting, as the majority were forced to live in the school dorm. Gee, I wonder who that could be. A Rayan Girls' Academy had a reputation as a school for princesses, and it was rare indeed for one to be slumming with the common folk. That alone would have been enough to cause a ruckus among the boys, but this girl looked the epitome of class. One could not help but describe the standing figure as charming. The way she silently, motionlessly waited was reminiscent of a meticulously composed portrait. Alco took one look at her before instantly recalling that one word: solitude. Okay, you lame brace, don't you have anywhere better to be? Disgusted, Alco barged through the gate. At this point, she would normally head home, but today she crossed the street toward the waiting girl. Oh craps, that student council president! Damn it, she's trying to chase her away! Let the girl be! She has a right to stand there if she wants to. She's gonna go nuclear! The president versus the angel! She doesn't look like an angel, she looks like a devil. Well, I mean, she's just dressed in all black. I don't think... What gives, man? Who cares if she's from another school? She's not even on school property, right? Right, guys? Don't mess with Madame Alco, you're just asking to be smacked. The boys ran with their mouths behind her back. Not in the mood to shut them up, Alco walked right up to the girl and offered an informal wave. Something the matter, Alice? I told you before, there's nothing of interest for you here. For real? Alco heard the boys by the gate lose their collective minds and did her best to ignore them. What are you sure about? Alco? Those people are a nuisance. You think? I'll chase them off. In contrast to Alice's small voice, Alco spoke loud and clear. Naturally, this was on purpose, so as to deal with the riffraff by the gate all at once. Crap, she's coming this way! Hey, stop pushing me, move it, I'm out! But doesn't it look like they're tight? Maybe we could get the priest to introduce us. Ha ha ha, rookie mistake. You still haven't experienced the realities of the battlefield. On second thought, only dreams be dreams. It's your funeral. Perhaps because too many of them had gathered in one place, the mob entered a frenzied panic as they tried to escape. Alco addressed them all. Well, what do we have here if it isn't the Go Home Early Club? Wouldn't you mind telling me what you're all doing here in a place like this with no club activities to attend? The student council president stared daggers at the boys. In any case, exams are coming up. It sure would be horrible if, instead of going home to study, you were loitering around just to ogle another school student, now wouldn't it? Not like a single one of you had the guts to even go up to her and say something. No one of them was brave enough to admit that this hit the nail on the head. If they had such courage, they would have already been chatting the young lady up. I think they've got something in the classroom. If I had known it was going to end like this, I would have at least gone down trying. What if we go borrow binoculars from the astronomy club? I'm sure we could get a good view from the roof. The astronomy club doesn't have binoculars, dummy. If anyone does, it would be the Wild Bird Society. The priest destroyed those last month. If you have time for the bird watching, you have enough time to find a girlfriend, chicken. Find a girlfriend? Sorry, Zaki, I'm going to cut through the back exit. I got you too. Later, priest. See you tomorrow. And with those oh-so-charming remarks, the boys scattered with their tails between their legs. You seem to be enjoying yourself, Alco. How could you tell? Alco's response slipped out all too easily. In truth, there were not that many bad apples at Masaki High, and dealing with them wasn't really that bad. So, what is down here? Did you find something out? Identify traces of the witness from within the field. What we need to do now is put a name to them. I see. Alice, how long have you been waiting here? Since school was dismissed. So she had been here for roughly an hour. Standing in the same place for an hour would be taxing for someone as sensitive to the cold as Alice. I'm sorry, if you would have told me. Don't be, I'm just doing it because I wanted to. As she spoke, her black eyes were fixed upon the gate and the students passing through it. She had likely been observing the gate in this manner for the past hour. You weren't waiting for me, were you? Well, I'm here now anyway, so we can go. Alice nodded in assent. If Alice was still here, it meant she had not found the witness yet. If she had found the student, Alice would have already gone home and ahead of Alco and begun to research the students' backgrounds. Nothing came up on my end. She reported the results of tomorrow's investigation. Alice remained silent. With that, the conversation ended, leaving the two silently to enjoy the freezing wind. The silent stakeout dragged on endlessly. Students continued to pass through the gate, each shocked at the sight of the unusual combo, and head home. After 20 minutes, Alco let a sigh escape from her mouth, perhaps from boredom, perhaps from the cold, or perhaps from both. Hey, on our way home, do you want to drop by Dawn? Alco quickly turned to Alice to catch her reaction. Funny how she said Alice's name, but Alice's name isn't in here at all. Dawn was the name of one of Alco's favourite coffee shops. Offering no clear indication as to whether she was critical of Alco's blasé attitude or agreeing to her whims, Alice's gaze shifted ever so slightly. Alco followed her stare. You bring someone here too? Some voice took her off guard. There was only one person who spoke with a gentle, good-natured tone. Of course it'd be him. Turning back to Alice, Alco moved her focus to the newly appeared student. Can I help you with something? Can I help you with something? Sorry. All politeness flew out the window. Already in a bad mood, Alco's mood plummeted the longer she looked at Sojiro. The subtlety of her expression, however, was lost on him. No thanks, I was just on my way to the station to meet the swimming club captain, and I want to say thanks. Well, that was completely unexpected. Thanks, joining a club. Alco had a hunch that he was about to say something brainless. And by thanks, you mean payback, right? Fortunately, Sojiro was completely unaware of the more sinister implications to the word payback. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but it's no big deal. It's just that the swimming club captain said that the club doesn't get that busy until summer. So Joe was just about to thank her for recommending a club that would not take up much of his time, but Naoko cut him off with an expression of disinterest. Well, of course, I couldn't very well introduce you to a club that I knew you would never turn up to. All I do is mention something that even someone as busy as you can join. I see. Very efficient. His open admiration for her sapped Naoko's will to fight. Finding a suitable club and negotiating with its captain hadn't been an efficient use of her time at all. Anyway, you really helped me out. I just want to say thanks. So Joe gratefully dipped his head, but not before the flustered Naoko stopped him. Give me a break. You're just going to give me a headache if you do that. So how's the swimming club? Does it seem like a good fit? An awkwardness infiltrated her previously sharp gaze. So Joe was able to... Oh, look, the new Zenless Zone Zero version 1.3 update is out. Whoa. So Joe was able to pick up on the odd change in her behaviour, but could not define its reason. So he simply started with what he knew so far and reported the most recent information he had. Oh, I got kicked out of the club already. What? Why? Alko instinctively shouted at the unexpected response. Like a human jack-in-the-box. This unexpected development threw her mind in a tizzy, and she momentarily forgot the complicated feelings she had been wrestling with. What? You just said you were on your way to meet the captain! Yeah, the captain's taking me to a heated pool in Shirogi. So Joe stated this very matter-of-factly to the still reeling Alko. I'm not following. Things seem to be going fine. Why would they kick you out? Oh, that's easy, because I can't swim. Both said swimming! Buster! Alko reached up with her fingers and pinched the bridge of her nose as she processed his answer. Shizuki, do you remember my question from yesterday? The one where I asked you whether you preferred running or swimming? I'm confident that I remember your answer, but please repeat it to me. You said you preferred swimming, right? Yeah, since I was little I've always wanted to learn, and I'm already really good at running, so... Her energy spent, Alko finally understood. Apparently they would have taken me in and trained me from square one if I were in my first year. Sadly, it sounds like they can't recruit a second year like me who sinks like a rock, especially with only 3 months left in the school year. But the captain was really nice about it and even offered to teach me how to swim. So Joy's words were spoken from a place of joy, a fact that failed to reach Alko. So in other words, I tried to palm off defective goods, I'll never be able to show my face as the swimming club captain ever again. Wait, but isn't the captain a... Shizuki, the swim club captain is... She stopped herself short of a girl. She was afraid of how that might look, that she might not be able to rein herself in if she started. You know what, it doesn't matter, I understand now, so you can just go. Go far from me, okay? I just can't deal with you right now. Then might said the same thing. Come to think of it, he said that you were unusually tired yesterday and today. Did something happen? Kind of, but it's fine, it seems to have resolved itself. Anyway, how do I look to you, Shizuki? Do I really look that exhausted? Why had she asked him this? Blurting out things for no reason and on impulse. This was not usual for Alko. Perhaps it's because she realized that this would be their last chance to have a normal conversation. After a few moments of contemplation, Sojiro conjured up a grin that cut straight through the tension. Well, I would say you look more lively than you do tired, like a wolf that's been forced to plough fields for a long time, but is excited to finally go on a hunt again. He seems so cheerful. Bro, he's like on the fucking money, bro. He seemed so cheerful. Like he was so happy for her. Without thinking, Alko's hands went to her cheeks. If what he said were true, then she was grinning from ear to ear. There was just no way she could have made such a mistake. Anyway, thanks again. See you tomorrow. Perhaps still not comfortable enough to wave to her, he said his goodbye with sincerity in his voice and smile and took his leave. Wait, I have a question for you, then you can go. Alko called out after him. Her voice was cold as she admonished herself for having been somewhat affable earlier. Yeah? This is just a hypothetical question. Let's say you're on the brink of starvation and right in front of you are 2 animals also starving. Someone gives you a gun and tells you to shoot one of them. The one on the right is a lion, the one on the left is a kitten. What do you do? It was a fable-like moral dilemma, especially the way in which it was cruel and rather preachy. The kind that if you thought too hard about, you would never find an answer. So Drew answered quickly and calmly. I don't think I shoot at all. You asked me what I do, right? Come on, all 3 of us are starving. He was not in the least fazed by the dilemma. He gave the most innocent response, so innocent in fact that it would give anyone pause. Yeah, live a long life. Well, you think so? I think that's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. Adorning his face with a smile, wholly out of sync with his comment. What the heck's that supposed to mean? She regretted stopping him. If only she had just watched him go, this conversation would have never happened. So Joe Sinski made his way down the sloped street. So just like every day, he probably had to work late again. Only outgoing Alice remained, with Alice doing what she could simply to blend in. That harmless heck really throws me for a loop. Alka clenched her right fist tightly as she cursed out loud, and then prevented herself from screaming at the top of her lungs. Whether that scream would be directed towards Sojiro or toward herself was another matter entirely. Alka heard Alice's soft voice behind her, knew what she was going to say, as she had known for the entire time. Still, Alice, having shown no reaction to any of the other students, changed her expression upon seeing Sojiro. You need to say it. It's him, right? The witness. Her voice was cold as ice. It was the voice of someone talking about a complete stranger. The lion and the kitten. There were pros and cons to choosing either of these animals, the point being that she had asked him to choose one of them. In terms of risk, the lion was the more dangerous choice. The instant the gun was pointed at it, there was the chance it would fight back. Those who chose the lion required more courage, but any sense of guilt that came with holding a gun would be forgotten. Lions are fierce creatures. A poor excuse to shoot an animal, perhaps, but one that certainly helped alleviate the guilt. But what about the kitten, the weak creature? Goes that saying that the kitten would be the easier target of the two, but choosing it would be a disquieting decision for anyone. Even if the kitten had no chance to survive, it was still too senseless to carry out, and Alko's Sojiro was their choice. I knew it was him too. When she had felt that sinking feeling in the student council room, she ignored it. There was no getting around what must be done, she told herself. Until, that is, Sojiro went and said what he did, causing the resolve to waver. But the discomfort in her chest did not stem from any guilt she may have felt. She could care less for Sojiro, who was weak and would be incredibly easy to deal with, yet for some reason she could not dispel her reservations. A transfer student who moved to the city from the middle of nowhere was no family to speak of. Few would notice if he were to suddenly disappear compared to some person of some renown. If she were to kill him, it would be as simple as wringing a cat's neck, and it all served to just piss her off. It was too lucky, like everything was neatly handed to her. She wanted to just drop-kick her into orbit. I can't believe it, I hate it, this is how it's supposed to be. Why am I like this? Standing behind her, Alice heard all of the muttering. Nevertheless, she seemed to ignore it and said, he had something wrapped around his neck. A wholly unrelated topic. Alka returned to her senses. His neck? Yes, I wonder if it had something to do with being rejected by the swimming club. Alice had put much thought into this, as if it had deeper meaning to her somehow. Now that you mention it, I saw him wearing the same thing the first time we met. I must have missed it because he always has his collar done up. The conversation turned to idle nonsense, and though it solved none of their current problems, it did help calm Alko's frazzled nerves. Thanks, Alice, I'm good. Ready to go. Let's strike while the iron's hot in this before he spreads any rumours. Pumped once more, Alko turned her back to the school gate. For now they retired to the mansion and prepared for battle. I don't think they need to prepare for much battle. That tree looks creepy. Sure, but when and where do you plan to kill him? She said quietly so as not to be overheard by anyone else. Normally, Alko had to rein in that side of Alice out in the open as they were, but this was far from a normal situation. Tonight, as the place, we should meet him in the land of dreams. She gave a fearless laugh. A strangely pleasant sound, like the kind one would make when meeting their lover. Uh-huh. Heading into the chapter. Yep. Night of the Witches. Now I could go longer, like literally an hour longer if I wanted. But should I? I mean, I kinda do. I just gotta look something up real quick. Uh-huh. Interesting. Okay. Next episode. Apparently, some chapters. There are 13 chapters in this game, but some chapters can the chapters can range from like 20 minutes to over 2 hours each. So, oh, we'll see how long this one is. Night of the Witches 1. So Joe returned to his apartment on foot as per routine, under a blanket of clouds in the night sky. The rusty stars of his apartment building clanged with each step. Out of the corner of his eye, you could see the bicycles parked by the apartment building's outer wall. He debated the pros and cons of bicycle, how much easier life would be versus the expense, the convenience versus the necessity, but in the end decided one was not right for him just now. Clutching the bag of apples under his arm, he took out the key to his residence. A bike sure would be convenient, but it's not like... He tilted his head in confusion. More and more he found himself preoccupied with such random thoughts, when the real issue at hand was deciding what to do with the apples he had received. He placed the paper bag by the sink and switched on the lights. It was just after 10 in the evening. With the end of term exam shut around the corner, he had come home an hour earlier than usual. As he made back for the kitchen to pick up one of the apples to snack on, he found an envelope stuffed in his mail slot. The envelope had no name, return address, or stamp. Inside was a single piece of paper that had only the sender's name and a short message. It read, "There is something we need to talk about tonight. It's important, so I'll be waiting. To say, keep this a secret." A concise set of orders, neatly written. It was signed Naoko Izaki. She had been considerate enough to enclose a detailed map of the meeting place. Fuck me! Puzzled, he cocked his head to the side, then headed out the door. Well, we all know he's not gonna die, right? He's got major plot armor. He's got massive plot armor. Maybe more than Alice plot armor, but he's got plot armor. And I'm nowhere near the end of the game, so... I've only, played maybe... 4 hours, maybe? That's like... I've still got like 18 hours to go. Afterward, upon the room's sole tenant leaving the premises, the envelope burst into flames and evaporated without a trace, as though it never existed in the first place. Oh, right. Magical letter! Fuck. In the late 1800s, in the late 80s, Japan's post-war economic boom had somewhat stabilized and the city experienced a period of city growth. The city's modernization marched on, and the Japan Railways train station, a symbol of the new era, neared completion. In Misaki's neighboring town of Yashirogi, a new symbol of its own was about to be born. Yashirogi bred in Kittyland. It was Misaki's first investment. Years later it would be dubbed the fool's gold of the economic bubble, a relic of a bygone age. This city lacks aspiration and sophistication. 10 years ago, Yashirogi's renowned Tokitsu baking company ran factories all across the nation. Its proprietor was a middle-aged gentleman, then aged 56, by the name of Yurihiko Tokitsu, known affectionately by most as Topan. He took it upon himself to begin development on an estate on the outskirts of Yashirogi and broke ground under a creational wonderland that he hoped to be the pride of Misaki City. The long-awaited opening came in 1981. After 3 years of investment, this local amusement park, full of all kinds of hopes and dreams, began its short-lived tenure. It covered more than 85 square acres, its magnificent merry-go-round dazzled all who passed through the park's gates. Its roller coaster twisted and turned about the edges of the park like a writhing Japanese dragon. Its Ferris wheel, packed beyond necessity with gimmicks, was said to have tested the limits of modern engineering. It's perfect, infused with everything an amusement park could ever need. Old Yurihiko looked upon his creation and smiled, only boosting his confidence with the fact that its grand opening was staged during a period of prosperity, the springtime of the world. But, in spite of this, they splendidly miscalculated the balance between aspirations and sophistication. Its mascot, Kitsy, was poorly designed and appeared like a cheap knockoff. The park was stuffed to the brim with bread stands. Even its impossible-to-navigate mirror maze seemed out of date from the start. There were no dreams to be had at Kittyland, only nightmares satire. Numerous trade magazines lambasted Kittyland's shortcomings, and customer attendance declined. There was even an incident where a 6-year-old strayed from his mother had an accident and nearly died. 1986, 5 years after the park opened, the situation had grown from bad to worse, and the park was hemorrhaging money. On top of everything, Yurihiko, who had bet everything on the success of mascot Kitsy, retired, and Kittyland's operations were officially in trouble. And thus, amidst the scorn of nearly all residents of the area, entered Misaki City's one and only amusement park. What's more, perhaps best described as a footnote to this debacle, the self-proclaimed Parisian artist who designed the mascot Toki Jalich was said to have snapped his brush in warning over the closure of the park. His fault, buddy. To the present. Yep, we're going to Kittyland. It was midnight, and the Kittyland of today was a shadow of its former glory. Like a doll abandoned in the corner of a toy box, the lonely park was illuminated only by the light of the town that continued to live around it. So that's what happened. So Joe closed the Ashrogi guidebook that he had picked up on the way there. The story of its history was almost difficult to believe, but he supposed this was what people referred to as an entropy. The fast front gate was unlocked. When he had worked here the previous time, the iron fence was locked shut with a rusty chain. The chain was nowhere to be seen, and the gate left ajar. Following the map drawn in the letter, Sojiro quickly made his way inside. So urgent, but to meet this late at night? What in the world could she want? She wants to fucking kill you. Sojiro complained, quite out of character for him. It's probably because, in spite of his naivety, even he knew that something was amiss. Though the park was abandoned, this was still trespassing, unlawful entry, larceny, and burglary. These were certainly not things, or perhaps crimes, that Sojiro was proud to do, but... Sorry, I can't pay you any money. I'm really sorry for coming in for free. Money, apparently, was why his conscience was gnawing at him. He clapped his hands in apology towards the statue of Kitsy, on whose eyes the paint had begun to aptly dissolve. Sojiro passed the mascot, bleeding red paint from its eye sockets, and began to walk the night park. The building's colours had faded. The collection of machines was rusted. The main man-made residents no longer felt the passage of time. Even the ghosts themselves could not endure the disparity between this forsaken place and its previous grand stature. It was like a fossilized dream. These were the ruins of a paradise both created and abandoned by man and reality. The economy had stabilized, and the standard of living was on the rise. Nobody was overly concerned with the future. These were the remains of a wild, exciting era. His brain turning to white wisps before him, Sojiro continued through the abandoned amusement park. Though void of human presence, this was not nearly as frightening as the darkness deep in the mountains. City suburbs can take many different forms, but Kittyland was the unusual for an amusement park, and so much as it had been built adjacent to a residential district. Hold on, just go look something up real quick. Wow, and so much is actually a thing. It's not just a compound word, it's a triple letter word. Triple weird word. Yes. The park was surrounded by forest, but even then, ultimately, was man-made. It was no different from the curtains on a classroom window. If he were to scale the iron fence encircling Kittyland to break through to the 20 yards of forested trees, he could make it back to the familiar townscape. Though the amusement park tended to arouse dread in the city folk, Sojiro was a little different from the commotion and terror of downtown. Guess that's it. The central plaza was as silent as a grave. According to the map, the meeting spot was west of here. Waiting for Sojiro at his destination was a rugged, imposing, magnificent castle towering before the backdrop of the cloud night sky. A house of mirrors. Even for an abandoned park, was a remarkable structure. If the roller coasters and the Ferris wheel were loud, intense attractions, this was comparatively quiet and easygoing. It was one of Kittyland's 3 iconic structures, and in a way, the wicked fortress that guided this paradise down the path of closure. Generally speaking, amusement park mazes generally fell into one of 2 categories. Labyrinths, which disorient visitors with their sheer size, and mirror houses, which disorient visitors with optical illusions. Many of a labyrinth's guests enjoy the brief sense of adventure that it afforded. Over the years, however, it would be usurped by the ever-increasing thrills of new attractions, such was the way of all trends, the curse of fads. The new must give way to the newer. On the other hand, the House of Mirrors was a time-honoured, beloved staple. Even within the confines of classroom's dimensions, well-placed mirrors and well-directed light could both perplex and delight its visitors. And figuring the cost of maintenance, a well-designed House of Mirrors could far outlive its labyrinth brethren. Even if both types faded into obscurity, they would remain a staple of what constituted an amusement park. However, that didn't mean that combining them would produce double the fun. Together, they transformed from entertainment into an uncanny realm from which those who dared to step within could never leave. In a similar sense, Kitty's Mystery Tour Tower was the park's very own otherworld. Indeed, 5% of visitors ended up requesting staff assistance to get out. Modelled after European castles, it was greater than a football field in length, and the interior was further split into 3 floors. 2 floors above ground and 1 below, lined with mirrors from top to bottom, equal parts complex and vast. The maze demanded at least 30 minutes, even from the veterans. One visit was all it took to be struck by catoptrophobia for hours. It was this labyrinth that now stood in Sojuro's way. Looks like it's not entirely pitch black. I guess somebody turned the lights on. Soon as Sojuro, unaware of what a house of mirrors it was, concerned himself only with its lighting. He checked the letter of Malco once more. The letter read, "I'll be waiting in the first floor lobby of the House of Mirrors." That meeting place was definitely in here. There was something to see by, at least, as he could just make out light faintly through the open doors. Putting aside his suspicions, he headed towards the entrance. The sound of his steps against the brick-laid path echoed faintly. He was far from the hustle and bustle of the city. Past clocks no longer made tick nor talk, and the winter's bite no longer blew in the night. From within the silence, the stillness that would cause any onlooker to hold their breath. Hello? Sojuro stopped abruptly at the entrance of the House of Mirrors. By the way, why are you over there? He called out, turning back toward the plaza. He noticed! Oh my god! She felt like, how the hell did you see me? How do you notice whatever? A sound rang out as if someone had dove behind a garbage can and it fell to the ground in their haste. A short silence ensued. For a moment, the abandoned park returned to its previous hush. Resigned to having been exposed, the girl appeared from her hiding place. Oh, looking hot today. I mean, his voice died in his throat as he took on the sight of the girl's familiar face and unfamiliar attire. This Akko, with the long hair flowing in the breeze, was different from the Akko that Sojuro knew. This is also the, outfit she's wearing here on the thumbnail of the show. What's this? Did I fuck? Alright. Oops, I did not mean to do that. My bad. The resolute stance and posture she took exuded the strength of her will. Of her will! Of her willy. I mean, she stared directly at him with a sharp-eyed, piercing gaze. Piercing gaze, yes. Her eyes were glowing with a dim phosphoric light, enough to give Sojuro pause that he might be hallucinating. An icy coldness and a girl's strength. Sojuro lacked a sense of danger, but the sense of imbalance caused even him to feel the malice in the air. It was as though the Yuki-onna spirit of folklore had climbed out from a ghost story and appeared here in reality. Just gotta look something up real quick. In many stories, Yuki-onna appears to travelers trapped in snowstorms and uses her icy breath to leave them as frost-coated corpses. Other legends say she leads them astray, so they simply die of exposure. Other times, she manifests holding a child. Uh-huh. Alright. Instinctively, Sojuro took a step back. Surprised, he was starting to feel concerned. An unpleasant premonition rose to the surface, bringing with it a sense of anxiety. In spite of this, he felt a blush on urban etiquette by seeing if she was alright. Something happened to you? From the looks of it, Without acknowledging him, Malco took a step forward. A figure, this atmosphere, Sojuro found himself recalling a recent memory. His twisted and knotted apprehension melted away and was replaced with a growing realization. The before him was very similar to someone he had seen before, that night in the park, though he hadn't seen it from behind. With increasing certainty causing him to swallow nervously, he noted that they might as well have been identical. You asked me what I was doing? Well, it's exactly what it looks like. I was waiting for my prey to pass by. Once you went inside, I was going to follow and cut off your only route of escape. Alko said, perturbed by the swift change in plans. But he just noticed it, straight up. He's like, what the fuck are you doing over there? Yeah, so I came to the right place. Well, that's the... Sojuro was mildly relieved that he had not gone to the wrong place. Why is that? What's on your mind right now? It was unclear whether he felt confident about dealing with what was to come, or if he had simply failed to grasp the hopelessness of the situation. Alko ignored his obtuse response and continued. You know, Just like anyone else, some people get on my nerves and some people I just really hate. But the funny thing is, my enemies are never people on my shit list. Cold emotion burned in her eyes. Her feet had already moved one step closer to Sojiro. Sojiro's sense of foreboding was growing stronger. Wondering if what he sensed was bloodlust, he retreated another step. Continuing as so, they maintained a distance of just 15 feet. Exactly 15 feet. As far as I can recall, I've never thought of someone I didn't like as an enemy. As it happens, I've even had enemies that I liked. And the reason is simple. She had her right arm out. The light about her was no illusion. It's simple, really. Everyone who throws me out of whack is my enemy. Her arm moved again. It wasn't instantaneous. Wow, that was cool. Something shot past Sojiro in the blink of an eye, missing him by just a foot to his left. Did he dodge it? What? Before his eyes, a blue light, something akin to a fireball, ignited from nothing. He finally understood what was happening. Wait a second, I've seen one of those before. She ignored his dim-witted reaction. That! Damn it, I missed. Akko muttered to herself. The fist-sized hole in the blue light had made in the house of mirrors cracked and smouldered. A shot like that could easily cave in a human skull in addition to burning it to a crisp. I'd have to kill myself if Alice saw me miss at this range. But if you get it now, right? This is it for you. There won't be a second chance. So Joe backed away swiftly. Things were beyond incomprehensible. He was close to losing the ability to think at all. All he could make out was the figure of the dependable student council president, or at least what he thought was the president, and the memories of the park that night 2 days ago. He had never experienced anything like this, though most people living in a civilized country would have never seen anything like it either. A lethal weapon that could kill with nothing more than the pull of a finger had a way of suspending the ability of its target to determine between not just good and evil, but dreams of reality, past and future. And the more peaceful someone's life had been, the stronger their suspension was likely to be. All that one could think about was the fact that they were alive at that very moment. It was as if he was an unwritten character on a blank piece of white paper. There was no before, there was no after, there was only what came next. This is a very common thought process for anyone staring down the barrel of a gun. Oh, don't bother begging, it's pointless. But feel free to air your grievances. It's a killer's duty to listen to a victim's last words. By saying it was pointless, she made it sound more like she would not listen to what he had to say. However, Sojiro was in such a state of shock that it did not even enter his mind to speak up. Oh, that was a cool transit. All he knew, for reasons unknown, was that the girl in front of him wanted him dead. You could have told me tomorrow. You said that no such thing exists. Well, now, idiot! The monster right in front of me! Sojiro felt that if he had said that out loud, the second blast would come even quicker than the last, so he kept it to himself. His mental expletives stirred his mind from paralysis to mere panic. This response came not from confidence, however. Someday, out of the blue, someone is going to kill me. While it may have seemed like a baseless belief to hold. Oh, but now that I think about it, murders happen all the time in cities. I should have remembered. If you break the rules, you get killed. I knew that already. Sojiro, the situation seemed to perfectly align with his experienced understanding that the city was a coldly pragmatic place. As far as he was concerned at this moment, being killed by a classmate was not something to be so surprised by. In a society where murder was possible, he was able to accept this sort of situation as natural. Of virtually no concern was the series of events that led to Alko's aggression towards him. The only thing that truly confused him was Alko's blue fireball. Sojiro swallowed with an audible gulp. To anyone who may have been watching, it was the response of a victim paralyzed by fear. That's right, so you do finally get it. I'm all out of words, so I think it's time you died. I go on about how magecraft has to stay hidden, but that doesn't really have anything to do with you. All you need to know is that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. That it was me who killed you. Done talking, Akko once again lifted her right arm. There was a hum like a machine. Blue light began to revolve around about her right arm beneath her sleeve. What's he going to do? This was taking longer than last time, leading Sojiro to believe that it was going to be much stronger than the last attack that was still scorching the wall behind him. The realization caused his panic to heighten. No, wait, it's not about me having to die, or the fact that the monster that night was actually Azaki, or even whether she's part of the church. It's not about any of that. His thoughts had become jumbled. His heart pounded like a hammer. This was no time to be standing still. He was not sure if the girl in front of him was really human. More importantly, even if he could accept the facts unfolding before him, when all is said and done. It's wrong to kill people! That's what you're gonna say, bro! I think she knows, to be honest. Even if it was a fact of life in the city, Sojuro was not about to lie down and die. Bro, I think she knows this. Don't you think I'd know that? Hey, wait! Sojuro's scream, still entirely oblivious, was just the thing to invoke Alco's full wrath. Sick. Got animations. Alco fired a barrage of magical blue bullets. In an instant, Sojuro dashed into the shadows behind him into the entrance to the House of Mirrors. Woo! What the heck was that? He darted feverishly down the hall. After a mere few feet, he was left completely out of breath. This was due to the shock at seeing another attack, fiercer than the first, that he'd never seen in his life, and because he couldn't shake the thought that if he had moved him a second later, he would be dead. He could not afford to stop. The sound of merciless footsteps closed in behind him. I've bought myself some time. Maybe here I'll be able to figure out something. He threw everything into his legs as he sprinted. A straight, narrow passage about 60 feet long connected the entrance to the main lobby. At this rate, if he could just make it to the lobby, he was sure he would be able to find as many hiding spots as he needed. Thank God. He arrived in a large open space. This was the first floor lobby. There were 3 passageways. One led to the basement floor, one connected to the first floor maze. The other was a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Sojuro did not particularly care which one he chose, so, trusting his intuition, he made a run for the first floor maze when... Ouch. He smacked his head into a transparent wall. A mirror? That's right, it's annoying, but I guess this makes things fair. The chase and the chased are on equal ground. A somehow cheerful voice echoed in his direction. There's no need for Sojuro to even turn around. In the very same mirror he crashed into, he could see Alco Aozaki's figure slowly approaching. You should know, I sealed off the first floor exit deeper inside, physically, not with a bounded field. Is calling it a seal going too far? Maybe plugged or buried works. Either way, if you get too close, you'll be swallowed by a cave-in. I recommend you keeping your distance if you don't want to be buried alive. Panicked by the impending footsteps, Sojuro groped for the wall. He could see the stairs to the second floor. He did not understand what Alco had meant earlier, but he at least knew that the first floor was not going to save him. It would save me a lot of trouble if you just died that way, though. The cleanup is much easier for accidental deaths. Behind him was a creature beyond words. As she continued her idle taunting, she lifted her right arm ostentatiously. Even from above her clothes, one could see some kind of strange and incongruous pattern upon her body. The veins beneath her skin, they made it seem as though something inhuman was circulating her body. I mean, yeah. Whether out of pity or repulsion, Sojuro stopped for just a moment. His pursuer evaded his gaze. You've noticed then, I normally hide it with ointment, but today is special. It's called a magical crest, it's proof that I'm a mage. See this light revolving around me, right? It's the beginning of what formed that snap, those bullets. I'm feeling pretty good today, and I've never felt more confident in how to use my magical energy efficiently. I think I'm good for another 30 bullets or so. Perhaps she was on an emotional high, for her voice had become frightfully friendly. The substance of the conversation could not have been any more unsettling, however. I understand a thing you're saying. You don't? I'm telling you that I have 30 more shots in the tank. If you can escape before I use them up, it's your win. For today, that is. For today, you're gonna have to do this tomorrow, too. Sojuro knit his brows. Alco's expression creased into a scowl at his behaviour. Although he was panicking, it seems that deep down he still did not feel the full weight of the crisis. She knew he still didn't get it. I said my piece. Free time is over. I may still have some trash talk left in me, but well, there's never enough time to get it all off my chest anyway. Just give up already. It appeared Alco had prepared this theatrical dialogue ahead of time. Not to allow her opponent time for futile pleading, but to give him the time to curse her, his killer. Such forthrightness was her modus operandi. With his victim, however, it was not going as she had hoped. Anyway, that's all I have to say. She'll begin the hunt. Her voice was void of emotion, and her eyes ruthless as they bored into her prey. This time, Sojuro finally accepted that he was going to die. But he's got some sort of special power, because he managed to get into a bounded field without anyone knowing how. Silent as the dead, it stepped into the remnants of the dream that had long since seen no visitors. There was no wind this night, nor a soul to be seen. Still, it heard the echoes from within, clasped its hands together, and grinned. Its form, with hands clasped, resembled that of a budding tulip. The bearing of this artificial flower reflected on the cloudy mirror of the ticket attendant's office next to the gate. Next to it stood a display board, corroded by years upon years of rust. No. Number of visitors today, 2. Number of today. The board had graffiti crudely scrawled atop one of the words. It was replaced with deaths. The records board had long ago fallen to disrepair. After taking a full 10 seconds to digest what it was looking at, it made its own revision. Number of visitors today, 3. Number of deaths today, 1. After appending this number with an index finger, she smiled like a flower. Then she began to walk toward the source of the sound. It had been 10 minutes since this rhapsody had begun to echo from the House of Mirrors. The amusement park's entrance returned to it as it was before, soulless. In the end, even if Sojiro had been the luckiest man alive, there was no way he should have been able to escape. The question, however, was how much of this was by design, and how much was sheer coincidence. Even Alko, who had made all the arrangements, had no answer. Indeed, there were only 3 things she could say. It was taking longer than expected. He was putting up more resistance than she had anticipated, and that choosing the House of Mirrors had been a mistake. She had really screwed the pooch on this one. The location itself was an excellent choice, as the House of Mirrors was perfect as a hunting ground, but seeing her own incompetence reflected in the mirrors was beginning to grate on her. Oh! The moment Alko's right arm began to glow, Sojiro made a beeline for the staircase in front of him. A striking series of blue flashes lit the room behind him. The hunter calmly followed her prey, and the prey desperately ran for his life up the stairs. Just what the doctor ordered. Can't very well let the best laid plans go to waste now, can we? In stark contrast to Sojiro's frenzied escape, Alko walked briskly up the stairs. She elected not to run after her prey in order to maintain a safe distance. As she lacked confidence in her accuracy, she would be the most challenged if Sojiro bull-rushed her and went down fighting. But at a distance of 30 or so feet, he posed no threat. By the time her prey drew near, she could fire 10 shots and hit with at least 4 of them. Their positioning just a moment ago hadn't been ideal. At this distance and a pace this open, there was a chance, however small, that it could turn into a fistfight if he flanked and charged her. Currently, Alko's best weapon was the bullets from her right arm. As she was going to capitalize on that advantage, it was in her best interest not to close the gap between them. If there was a good time to approach, it was only after her prey had become exhausted and lost the will to continue. Would she pierce his leg, shoot him in the back? Or perhaps would he just give up and left losing himself in the labyrinth? The hunt would end when her target sustained some sort of injury and became unable to run. On Sojiro's end, he could barely bite back on screaming as he bolted through the maze. Even running in a straight line had become difficult, much less searching for an exit. Ouch. Yep, the corridor stretched out far before him, also the mirrors blocking the path that made it seem. Panicked, he made a turn to the right. Clutching his head in his right arm, Sojiro led with his left, groping through the air to see whether a wall was there or not. Well, there's the light. He dove for the hall to the left, narrowly dodging the bullets targeting his life. And there's your way out. Urged on by the sound of the approaching footsteps, he ran without thinking. That last one was close, here closer than it would have meant to life. He caught the odor of burnt hair from the back of his neck. He was very lucky, or perhaps very unlucky. If he were actually lucky, he would not be in this situation in the first place. The second floor of the House of Mirrors was structured like a giant spiral. It wound left, starting from the outside wall. Eventually it would lead to a dead end. The more he tried to escape, the more cornered he would become, as though he were trapped in a twisted guillotine. A stifled scream strained to leak out his complaints. No matter what he did, he was going to be killed. All the struggling merely served to prolong the inevitable. Yet he ran. No matter how many mirrored walls he rammed himself into, he ran. Even after crashing so hard that his forehead bled and he still saw stars, he ran. Pain shot through him at every turn. The more frantically he ran, the more intensely he smashed into the invisible walls. His body began to understand this rule and begged him not to run anymore. His breath was already ragged after sprinting a couple hundred feet. But how he thought about it, this was not normal. This was way too crazy. This was all just a bad joke. If he turned around now, she would apologize to him for taking it too far. His mind had gone blank as his body continued to slam into the mirrors again and again. His feet slowed as they began to believe that perhaps it really was all a joke within. Nah, not a joke, buddy. He felt a chill. A touch of death upon his neck. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Sojiro knew this kind of terrible chill far too well. Ever since he had arrived in the city, he had come face to face with more than one or two near-death experiences. For someone who did not understand city life, his prison predicament was not unlike what he experienced the traffic on the streets or the commuter rush on the station platform. He was far from an innocent babe, unable to comprehend life or fear. Rather, everything he had ever known became irrelevant when he was flung into a completely different cultural sphere. Even society's promises of safety, something urbanities took for granted, were threats unknown. So he was used to this already. Though if he were to be honest, he was dissatisfied with some things. Things superfluous in necessity. This world is overflowing with valueless things, and they were all dangerous in some way. Even the everyday necessities sold at the convenience store were, as far as he was concerned, amazing tools. Civilization had raised the standard of living so high that it had numbed humanity's sense of danger. The city's constant pursuit of wealth and convenience was a poison to a country boy like Sojiro, and he did not have the capacity to accept these conveniences. That it was possible for such conveniences to easily and suddenly be misused and cause unintended accidents had always made him anxious. Why? He had to wonder why he was even here. I like the animation. Kinda cool. Ah, how ironic. He took the real threat of death to finally make him realize. Like a divine revelation, what he'd failed to understand until now, he'd always had to expect the unexpected. Near-death experiences were more common than one might think. To begin with, safety was something that came at a price. Being alive meant that the opposite was always lurking around the corner. It was just like a street light at night. Why is there blood? Fire should have, vaporized his blood. Anyways, or what's the word for it? I don't know. I can't remember. When the sun rose, this illumination would naturally disappear. Sheesh. Another barrage of strange projectiles whizzed mercilessly by him. He recalled in the back of his mind the charred remains of someone at the hands of that blue flame 2 nights prior. Somehow, this situation reminded him of a horse being led by a dangling carrot. For now, he lifted his head and continued to run through the labyrinth. But for what purpose? Though he knew the pain in his chest was very real, he felt disconnected from it. The night sky visible through the skylight was a muddy ultramarine, no longer resembling the one he knew. He managed to calm himself. Sojiro began to laugh in despair, as though something rather precious had been broken. Like his brain? Everything had become meaningless anyway. Even so, his legs somehow made their way forward at the sight of her reflection in the mirror. Like in game of cat and mouse, Sojiro fled through the labyrinth of mirrors. Then after 4 minutes, that strangely unreal tension ended. The 9th shot of blue light hit inches away from him. It exploded the moment it made impact, launching Sojiro into the opposite wall. Of all the fire he had taken thus far, this shot indisputably brought him the closest to death. Of course. Gah! Groaning, he collapsed to the floor. His back was on fire with pain. He was not bleeding, and he was lucky he could still even scream. Yet his body refused to move. Physically and mentally, he still had something to spare. The pain was not so bad that he couldn't get back up. It was just that there was a skylight above him, and he could glimpse the dark of the night sky beyond. The feeling that overcame him was a raw, selfish bout of grief. Oh, it was just so cruel. To have to stare at that for the remainder of whatever short life he had left. Sojiro's ragged breath slowed. For all intents and purposes, he had given up. He had given up fleeing from the pursuer footsteps and perhaps even the root of all his problems. Well, at least Zaozaku got to kill me. Sojiro Suzuki felt things that, in any other circumstances, he would never feel. Incidentally, without exaggeration or embellishment, this is the only mistake he had ever made in his entire life. Staring vacantly into the night sky above, Sojiro listened as the footsteps drew nearer. You give up? It was the closest her voice had ever been to him. Perhaps feeling that he really had given up, she approached his collapsed form. In the dark and mirror-lined corridor, he could not make out her expression. Without a word, Sojiro raised his eyes to meet his murderer. I suppose if you don't care, you don't ask. Really do throw me off. Most people would ask me why I'm going to kill them right about now. Alko spoke from within the shadows. His eyes widened in bewilderment. Now that she had mentioned it, he realized that would have been the obvious question to ask. He had more or less picked up on the fact that he was being killed for learning some secret, but it was human nature to want to know more. That makes sense, now that you mention it. A simple affirmation. His face was a mixture of resignation and forlorn longing. He thought for a moment before. But you don't have to say anything. I don't want to hear it. He responded in a mature, subdued voice. His response was clear, rather gallantly so. I see. I'm still going to kill you. I'm just scared of dying. Of course I'm scared. It'll probably hurt. His voice turned wry as he objected, to which Alco frowned. As nonchalant as he could be, he was honest about his feelings. Of course that would be scary. I'd be scared too, you know. Sorry though, you'll just need to deal with it. It's okay if you call me a monster. This is exactly what I am right now. I guess in that way I'm just like you. I don't have what you would call normal morals. How else I need to murder someone? Sojo's finger twitched in response to her indifferent tone, as if to say that, despite having given up on just about everything, his body could not let those words slide. Murder is wrong, you know. We went through this. I know that already. Echo raised her right hand. The light from the crest illuminated her face. It goes without saying that her expression was unchanged. She was not crying, nor was she smiling. She was a young woman who had excised her feelings. Deal with it was another thing Sojo could not let slide. Sojo could read on Alco's face that she was not herself. She was in pain, and to a degree he had never seen in her. Sorry, but I guess I do have something to say. What is it? I don't think you can trick me into letting me go by making me feel bad. He unconsciously smiled at Alco's ruthless counter and breathed a sigh of relief. He had misread the pain he saw on her face. This was the same Alco. Sojo laughed out loud in genuine joy, a laugh that most other people would have taken as an insult. I'm sorry to regret letting you say your piece. Or should I take that attempt to make fun of me as just that? No, I'm not laughing at you. I was just wondering if that person over there was a friend of yours. Out of nowhere, Sojo pointed behind Alco. What? Alco thought that it must have been that old, overused distraction technique. This had been a Japanese comedy act, and this would be the part where she gave him a whack with a paper fan, but after giving it a second thought, she realized Sojo didn't have the capacity for understanding old or even new tricks. What are you... Perhaps his honest disposition had been to his benefit. Without thinking, Alco gave in to her curiosity and turned her gaze toward the direction in which his finger was pointed. And there. Something that should not have been there in the maze. Something with a creaking wooden smile. What the hell? There's a mannequin! It was the ominous, creepy, uncanny figure of a girl. That's creepy as fuck, bro. Is that the end of this chapter? No. Okay. A puppet? An unusual figure with 2 arms and 2 legs stood silently in the darkness. If only for a moment, its beauty, which was even apparent from afar, dulled the insanity of the current situation. Oh! I actually jumped to that. That was a for real jump. Extend, extend, extend. The utterly unknown threat made Alco freeze on the spot. Avoiding it didn't even occur to her. Humans possess intelligence and knowledge, but when it confronted with the unknown, they failed to possess what to do. And let me guess what's going to happen here. Okay, he's gonna save her. Maybe. Or, yeah, oh no, never mind, she just got hit. Okay. He just sat there and watched it happen. Alright, never mind. I've watched too many animes and just assumed things. Okay. A shriek escaped from Alco's mouth. The magical attack crossed the 30-foot gap in an instant. The arm of the girl who had appeared at the rear of the corridor was slender and quick and extended to a near impossible length, striking Alco from behind. You fought one of these before. Alco crashed into the wall as she fought back in anguished whimper. The attacker retracted her arm. Pow! Sojo sprang to his feet. He darted to her side and used all the strength he could muster to get her to her feet. He could not believe how light she was. In Sojo's mind, Alco was an extraordinary individual. He expected that if he were ever to touch her, it would be apparent she was far stronger than he. But in reality, she felt about as heavy as you would expect a 100-pound girl to feel. So just 100 pound then. Meanwhile, that thing continued to reel in its arm as if it was some sort of mechanism. Having extended more than 30 feet from the elbow joint, it clanked as it returned to its previous shape and size. Are you okay? Are you for real? How can you even look at me like that right now? Alco tore her hand away from Sojo's. Suddenly he felt her knees buckle from under her, but Sojo caught her before she got to the ground and held her to her feet. Don't push yourself too hard. So, do you know this thing? He looked back at the eerie shadow 30 feet away as it finished retracting its arm. Yeah, I fought one of his friends a while back. Alco grabbed her lower back as she answered. A searing pain shot through her. Da-da-da. It's just a bruise. How can it hurt this much? Could have killed me catching me off guard like that, or maybe it can't kill me from that distance. No, that can't be it. I must be missing something. Alco tried to steady her breathing as she assessed the damage done to her back. The pain was quick to fade and her breathing returned to normal. For the time being, her motor functions were no longer hindered, which meant the real damage was elsewhere. That is creepy as hell. Those eyes look real. Oh, Ozaki, you're... I know, just shut up already! Blue light glowed across the plume. The magical energy generated by her breathing was accumulating in her right arm. Magical energy was the fuel, the formula was the igniter. For Alco, this was little more than a reenactment of 2 evenings ago. Next time the puppet extended its arm, Alco would fire a magic bullet as fast as she could. A battle at approximately 30 feet. As long as Alco could secure a 2-second window, she could create a counterattack to end their duel. It made its move. With its head tilted down, there was no expression to be seen. In the darkness, its apparent age was impossible to make out. To the 2 humans, the puppet was not dissimilar to a faceless ghost. Its left arm slowly came up with a grinding sound. Its movements were dull, as if the joints were rusty. The right arm, which had been extended earlier, hung at its side. Though the puppet's mouth was hidden by its long locks, the sense was that it was smiling. It's shooting up, it's attacking from the left! She threw herself into Sojiro and extended her hand, its arm extended at that very moment. The timing was impeccable. In a single second, Alco's snap bullet scored a direct hit on the puppet's arm, throwing off its trajectory and sending it crashing into the puppet's body with a violent explosion. Wow! Or at least, that's what would have happened had the magic formula been invoked. Well, the animation's sick. Huh? She barely avoided being struck once again. When her magecraft failed her, intuition took over and she just managed to get away. She got me, she knew what I was going to do. She clenched her teeth in frustration, her thoughts racing a mile a minute. Fight or flight. It only had one arm left, which would take time to retract. This was the best shot I had defeating it. She could evade the right arm, just a fraction, she could close enough to... In slumber I live in dirt, I rot, I alone. Today is the day I died and was born, I come to you. A crackle echoed through the corridor. The poetic murmurs contained enough magical energy for a mage to perceive. The verse itself was Latin, but it contained hints of the language of curses, Gander. Originally, they were words meant to curse a hated adversary. However, my life is immortal, though my future was destroyed. I am a ghost, the definition of life is ethereal. I hate you, I love you, let us meet in the dream. The puppet was directing the words at itself. Curses beget curses. The victim calls down a curse on the assailant, creating a vicious cycle of negativity. The incantation was meant to do just that. However, this was ultimately a one-puppet show. An unprecedented source of power akin to auto-intoxication. As unbelievable as it seemed, the cycle of curses had been turned into a perpetual motion device. You've got to be kidding me, isn't this overkill? Alco abandoned the idea of digging her heels in. It was time to flee with all due haste. What do you think you're doing? Come on! She grabbed Sojiro's hand and ran as fast as she could deeper into the realm of mirrors. The crackling voice continued its murmuring behind them. My neighbors neglected me. Not an instant among us, we are all sinners. We are all sinners, welcome to my house. May we die a muddy death. From dust to dust, gouge out my heart. Death be upon you. That was creepy. Alco fought against the pain in her back as she ran through the mirrored corridor. She dragged Sojiro by the hand. Are you okay? My spine is numb, but it could be worse. My internal organs seem fine, and I don't think I'm bleeding internally. She cursed inwardly at how much of a mess she felt, though. Unlike Sojiro, Alco did not run into transparent walls. Thanks not to superior sight, but rather preparation, she'd hammered the layout of the building into her memory. You really okay? How can you tell? It's my body. One of the first things a mage learns is how to keep track of your body. Alco's matter-of-fact answer contrasted with Sojiro's nervous questioning. The corridor grew shorter with each and every left turn. At first, they were able to advance in a straight line for about 100 feet at a time, but by now they were forced to turn a corner every 50 feet or so. Is that the one from the other night? Probably the same pattern, at least. Whoever's behind him must be pretty wealthy to be throwing a valuable automaton around like it's a toy. Sojiro furrowed his brows. He was grateful that she was answering his questions, but baffled by the strange words she was using. But we've been running for a long time. We're a good corner ahead of it. We can afford to rest a moment. His words suggested that he was still concerned about our injuries. Alco shook her head in irritation. Not if against something that with that kind of range, we need to keep running until we're 2 or 3 turns clear at least. So Jerome nodded. With that matter settled, he asked, "Why didn't you—" I can't see. It turned black on me. "Why didn't you leave me behind?" "What do you think? So you couldn't get away, idiot?" Answering curtly, Alco glared at her naive prey. The two of them headed for the next corner. Their legs began to slow as they rounded one more. Alco rubbed her back as she tried to catch her breath. Though Alco had insisted that she was fine, it appeared to have been bravado. Even the usually clueless Ojiro felt the desperation they were in. He stood behind Alco with his arms folded. While they had a moment, he tried to make sense of everything. First, Alco nearly killed him. Though he was saved at the last possible second, it was by the strange, stretchy woman Alco had burned to ashes 2 nights prior. He could barely make it out that night, but he considered it a her because it looked female. The woman's attack wounded Alco's back and forced her to flee. Alco had taken Sojiro with her, claiming that the reason she did it was to prevent her prey from escaping. In other words, you haven't given up, have you? Of course not. Even if I had to face 2 of those things, I'd still have plenty left to take care of the likes of you. Her tone was sharp, but even Sojiro could see that she was struggling to stay confident. The damage to her body was too much to afford her any optimism. Still, the fury in her eyes refused to accept her circumstances. Magic circuits are shooting out like crazy, which means that right arm of hers must be jamming my spells. Though the proper response would have been for her to tremble in fear, she did nothing but shake her fists in anger. The disruption of formulae was only supposed to work on absolute beginners. If it had been a roommate, the arm would have been repelled the instant it hit her, and the attacker's circuits burned out rather than her own. Attempting to establish a link to the magic circuits of another mage was like presenting your heart on a silver platter, being of no use in a battle against such a superior mage. And yet her adversary had been designed to do just that. Coupled with the attacks on areas of Misaki under Alco's jurisdiction, these last few weeks there was a clear statement from the enemy who had revealed itself as a fellow mage 2 days ago. In other words, the puppet saw Alco as no threat at all. Played right into their hands, huh? While she was still angry, the whirlwind of emotions within her started to fade. Her face was that of a hunter far beyond 2 years. You seem to be more concerned about this thing than you were about hunting me. I just sound disappointed. Well, naturally, I wasn't playing with you. Huh? Sojiro was not sure whether to be happy or sad at that. This is all so confusing that I don't even know where to start, but can I ask just one question? Alco didn't respond, her eyes focused on the darkness before them. The silence was heavy, and the darkness was like a noose closing in on them, but Sojiro continued in spite of her indifference. Are you going to kill her too? A stillness fell over them. It was as if the gloom was pulling them in. Oh, of course, that thing's not even human! No response. Their breathing was the only sound echoing in the dim corridor. There stood Sojiro, forcing her to confront her sins and the magician girl who continued to ignore him. They spent a few seconds, seemingly frozen in time. Yes? That's a sticking point for you, isn't it? Alco whispered in a lifeless tone. Her sigh was tinged with both resignation and contempt. A sticky... what? Nothing, forget it. But just so you know, that thing that's following us isn't human. You might not believe this, but it's a puppet that can move of its own will, just like the one from the other night. Sojiro nodded as he processed the information. Not only did he not doubt her story, but he seemed to have accepted it at face value. You're awfully calm. No way, I have no idea what's going on, so I'm just trying not to think too hard about it. The part about it being a puppet isn't too surprising to me, though. What? Are you saying you've seen one before? What do you mean? Aren't all the puppets in the city like that? What? Oh my god, dude. She barely stopped herself from falling to her knees. Of course, how could she have forgotten? She was dealing with a bona fide natural-born moron. As a student who transferred from the isolation of the mountains like an endangered species, his utter lack of common sense rendered anything miraculous as mundane. If automobiles were moving hunks of metal, then moving puppets were nothing to write home about. Wait, that meant... to him, the incident from the other night hadn't been extraordinary at all. He might have even assumed it was an everyday occurrence in the city. I give up, you know. I'd really like to get a look inside your head someday. I honestly have no idea how you made it this far in life. What is it, a weirdo? Normal people wouldn't react the way you did when I attacked you. I could have been a monster or a ghost, but for you, it's just another new fact of life. I'm starting to feel like the real moron here. His shamed face returned to normal for a moment. It hit her. There had been another way to handle this without anyone getting hurt. The damage had already been done. Yeah, you literally could have just not done anything, and he wouldn't have said shit because everyone else thinks he's bullshitting. There were no do-overs in life, nor should there be. Her own mistaken assumptions had sent that situation spiraling out of control. But now that Sojiro was involved, she had to make sure that her secret was safe with him. Even if there had been another, better option, that ship had been sailed. Human relationships are ultimately driven by mutual misunderstandings. They were like tapestries woven from mismatched intentions. I like that analogy. Break time was over. There stood Aoko Izaki and Sojiro Suzuki. Their first ever idle conversation had come to an end. Not that they had a choice in the matter. It was a jarring murmuring from around the corner that cut it short. Nemo miam funes meminit quedalut extinctus est indito enetio revaribus dumbivimus dolere sunt nemoriavet. Nobody remembers my funeral. My mourners have long since perished. We were both wrong. Life is suffering. Somebody save me. The enemy was just around the corner, visible in the mirrors parallel to it. We don't have time for this. We need to keep our distance. Huh? Holy shit! Whoa! Dude, that animation was clean. In contrast to Aoko's eloquent blues, its lights were a malicious red. Gander shots! I don't know what that is. There was a momentary flash of light before she even extended her arm, but the instant she saw the enemy, her dormant feelings erupted once more. They were a pain in the ass! She channeled all of her pent-up anger and shunted it into her right arm. The fog that filled the corridor was no magical weaving, but rather a barrier for energy. It was equivalent to setting ablaze 3 buckets of gasoline to create a wall of fire, in the hope it would stop an arrow in flight. Shit. If Puppet had attacked with its arm, it could have pierced such a wall easily, but because it had loosed curses with no definite form, the wall of energy repelled the attack. While it was a huge waste of magical energy, it was the only means Aoko had to protect herself at that very moment. Unfortunately, its protection was reserved for Aoko alone. Sojiro held his hand to his mouth. While the curses had been weakened to the point where Aoko could no longer feel it, it had plenty of effect on Sojiro, who was not a mage. As if it understood this fact, the puppet turned its gaze from Aoko to the unanticipated human behind her. It has nothing to do with him. Smash! Enraged, she swung around forward once again. The blue light formed a wall to block the gander for a scant few seconds. It was enough of an opening to exploit. Just as Aoko was forming the wall, the puppet pointed its right arm at her face and... This really does have something to do with me. Time to run. Before the rocket of death could be fired, Sojiro scooped her up into his arms. Huh? How he mustered the strength to do so was a mystery, but he turned his back on the puppet and took off running. He was a nimble sprinter, resembling a deer leaping across obstacles. Sojiro rounded 2 more corners, ignored whatever complaints Aoko was making, and eventually stopped in the middle of the 2nd floor. He set it down. Alright, I bought enough time to rest a bit. Sojiro's shoulders heaved as he caught his breath. As light as she was, running while carrying someone else would make anyone winded. She looked up at him in incomprehension. You had that much stamina all along, then why? It made no sense to her. If he had the stamina to pick her up and run, surely he could have stood up and escaped when he had been downed earlier. Oh, that time I had given up. His words were unfiltered as ever. Though right then, fighting for their lives, he lacked some of his usual absent-mindedness. But why? Who knows? I've forgotten already. Though he may have turned away because he regretted saying it aloud, his words spoke volumes. For some reason, it pained Aoko to see him like that. Also, I'm suddenly feeling really ill. Was it that red light? Yes, a form of magecraft. They're called gander shots. Occurs that originated in Scandinavia. It has no effect on someone with magic circuits like myself, but you're defenseless against it. I see. It doesn't work on you. Then that arm is the only thing that poses a threat. Aoko had no idea why he was relieved, but she gritted her teeth and fought down the urge to snap at him. There was no use in yelling at a time like this. Above all, she felt that it would have been petty in the extreme to voice her annoyance right now. You're right, the extending arm is the only thing I have to worry about, so it's not that tough after all. This time was not false bravado. Such an enemy would normally be a breeze for Aoko Izaki, but a shameful negligence had led to the disruption of her magic circuits, making her even less formidable than her enemy. At this point, Aoko had no way of attacking. The only option left to her was to wait for it to expend all of its magical energy, but its perpetual curse mechanism made it that a non-starter. This game of tag would not end until one of them was dead. She realized that she was in the same position she had cornered Sojiro in earlier. She glanced at her right arm. She could not imagine how she had gotten into such a mess with the magical energy at more than half of its capacity. This had been to be karma for having enjoyed toying with Sojiro earlier. Maybe there is a god after all. She grumbled under her breath as she shifted her focus. She had the fuel for the fire, but not the igniter, and that killing machine would chase her until the end of time if it need be. What she should do next was blindingly clear. She had to get back to normal. Zaki? Sorry, I was thinking. Maybe that could... Okay, Suzuki, I've got it. Do you see that side passage over there? Huh? Alko pointed, but he could see nothing but the walls of the corridor. For one thing, the floor had nothing but left turns, and Alko was pointing to the right. At the center of the second floor is a stairway down to the first floor, which I destroyed earlier so you could use it. So you couldn't use it. There's another path that leads down to the right, like this place is taunting you by design. It's a secret shortcut that only the hardcore fans know about. Search carefully, you can find a way to the stairs down to the first floor. Now do as I say and go on without me. Alko turned her back to Sojiro and started walking. Walking the opposite direction of the escape route and down the long corridor toward the puppet in pursuit. That thing will kill anything it sees, so I have to destroy it here and now. It's okay for two mages to fight each other, but dragging normal people into the conflict is strictly forbidden. I'm the target, so this was the best outcome for everyone, don't you think? If Alko won, the puppet would be destroyed. If Alko lost, its objective would be complete and it would shut down. Either way, them going their separate ways would mean Sojiro survived. This is what Alko meant, though she explained it as if the events were happening to two totally different people. I feel lucky enough to make it back to the gate in one piece. So see you tomorrow then. Even Sojiro could tell she was just trying to act tough, but she had already disappeared around the corner by the time he thought to stop her. End of chapter? Nope. Well then. Mentally, Alko bemoaned the disaster she was in. The quality of this puppet was on a completely different level compared to the one from the park 2 days ago. An auto-incanting perpetual motion machine was a rarity in and of itself, but this puppet was also equipped for battle with its extending arms and gated projecting crystalline eyes. It was a first-class product that, if put on the market, would sell for hundreds of millions of yen. Although that was only when factoring in its value as an antique. For the purposes of combat, it would have made more sense to immobilize a significantly less expensive familiar. To use such a precious commodity as a tool for murder marks this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from the enemies she had faced up until now. Whoa. I'm not going to bother reading that. Here it comes. A sound of a crackling music box filled the air. The automata, animated by its own curses, approached. The corridor measured approximately 30 feet in length. Alko lay and waited around a corner further down the hall, anticipating the puppet's appearance. This was not by Sojiro time to escape, far from it. Alko concluded that she couldn't make a break for it under the current circumstances. Even if she did try to escape, and by some miracle, made out of the House of Mirrors, that was as far as she would go. Outside with no cover, Alko would quickly be overtaken and skewered from behind. As long as her magecraft was disabled, escape was impossible. Instead, she chose to force the enemy back. The situation was not the most favourable, but neither was the puppet's. Though this narrow hall gave Alko no place to run, it in turn prevented the puppet from reaching full speed. That was the weak point of this machine. Shit. Automata of its era had a tendency to struggle with minute change in speed. Connecting. Set. Whoa, that looks sick. She flowed energy into her shorted circuits. Her blood flow and magical energy supply were unstable. It would be difficult to construct a formula in this state. All she could do was harden her right arm by imbuing it with as much energy as she could. Doing so turned her arm into an improvised weapon like a hammer or bat, assuming she could manage to get into close combat range. This was the best she could do. All she needed now was a plan of attack. The question wasn't what weapon to use, but how to use the weapon she had. The simplest way to use the mirror's reflections to hide, and then rush the puppet from its blind spot. It would be to use the mirror's except for one major problem. It did not have a sense of sight in the first place. Its view of the world around it did not stem from its visual feedback, but from mapping the topography of its surroundings. In theory, it was the same as a bat's echolocation. The environment could be measured based on the emission and return of high-frequency sound waves. Those charts served as sensor pulses. As far as the puppet was concerned, the mirrors were no better than transparent panes, making even the thought of an ambush laughable. The closer it gets, the more it's able to sense me. I'd really rather fight at a distance, but a shooting gander has probably got at least a fin shot up its sleeve too. Gander was Scandinavian in origin, and considering its simplicity, highly versatile. It was most effective at impairing a target's health by pointing a finger. As a single-action magecraft, it was limited to only causing illness, but there was a secret technique said to be the greatest mastery of the gander shot. The fin shot. It could do more than cause simple illness, but it was a simple illness. As a deadly curse, they could stop the heart. The wind in her back set her nerves on fire, an unarmed girl and a deadly automaton. It was clear that she was the one destined for death. She considered her slim chances of survival when... What the f... A vision sent chills down her spine. Quietly using everything she could clamp down on the feeling, Alco faced her all too familiar illusion. She clenched her teeth to keep them from making a deafening clatter. But there, the sensation of fingers crawling up her neck. Behind her, the spectre stared and laughed. This alone made Alco want to bolt. On top of it all, when Alco tried to mentally simulate the coming fight, she estimated a 2 in 10 chance of dying in the first 5 seconds. 20%, at times, her predictions were harsher than reality. If Alco fought the puppet 10 times, she would die twice. She could not stop herself from visualizing her own corpse. She imagined herself collapsing, crumpling under the puppet's curse. Her eyeballs swollen like a blowfish, blood and other fluids oozing from every bodily orifice. 1 in 5, 1 in 5, 1 in 5. A 1 in 10 chance of death was bad enough. A 1 in 5? It drove her crazy. That's a scarily, what's the word I'm looking for? Scarily... something, I don't know. It's a scarily something, rather. Okay, what the fuck ever. But... Alco forced it down her heart as it tried to escape from her mouth. Taking a deep breath, she peered at her own reflection. She thought back to that white night half a year ago. This, she decided, was nothing compared to that. 6 months ago at the Kawaji estate. The hound of white roses, the wonder snatch that appeared from within the thick fog, had killed Alco 100 times out of 10. A dark curse shattered Alco's daydream. It was only 30 feet away. Puppet ran into the corner. Either side stood in the shadows, their forms indistinct. Puppet gave no warning. Without preamble, it swiftly fired a gander barrage. Just as Alco planned, the curses fizzled out as they hit her like a mist-like barrier of magical energy. Protection won't last a few seconds, giving her just enough time to... That's creepy as hell. Come on. A stretchable spear sprung toward Alco's face. But... Bingo! The lethal weapon grazed her cheek. All her experience analysing puppet attack patterns gave her the wherewithal to evade the attack by a hair's breadth. It was one thing if puppeteer were pulling the strings, but autonomous dolls had their limitations. Alco had been everything on this killing machine following a predefined template. The puppet would use a given attack for a given range, and she could adjust her tactics to that. Now's my chance! Before its arm had a chance to fully retract, she charged the puppet. It was a risky gamble, but her overall chances were slim to begin with. The scales tipped in her favour. If her predictions were correct, there were 2 ways she would die. One was from a fin shot, fired in that range. And that's what it's doing. Question mark. And the other was if the puppet's attack pattern was beyond her ability to foresee. Instantaneous mass transfer, otherwise known as mass displacement. Immediately after Alco dodged the puppet's arm, something smashed into her abdomen. Ouch. The head-on collision from its shoulder felt like a rocket. But where had the ability to propel itself come from? Puppets like this were not built to have the ability to jet around like that. Doing everything in her power to stay conscious in spite of the pain, Alco could just make out what had happened. It wasn't propelled, it was pulled. Yes, the puppet's arm had not returned to its body. It was lodged in the wall and reeled itself in from the other direction. Wow, that's fun. You could do that? Swallowing her surprise, she hastily pulled herself back up. Her abdomen, specifically her diaphragm, had been dealt a significant blow. The attack left her disoriented. Thankfully, the puppet was surprisingly lightweight. Her both organs were intact, and she had sustained no life-threatening damage. She was having a hard time breathing, however. She was shaken, though she managed to keep her calm. In another 2 seconds, she'd be back on her feet. No, that was 2 seconds too long. She told herself to calm down, then she was already calm. She had only briefly lost her bearings. She was fine. She could recover her breath and her vision later if only her body would move. That's creepy as hell. Intellectus non necessarius est piusquiscat or nostra sentiablata fuit ratio. Above her, Alco could hear the warped noise of a powerful force. Come on, legs, move! We've got to get to where? She could once more feel the touch of death. Grant us salvation, grant us salvation, grant us salvation. Puppet was so close that Alco could reach out and touch it. That also meant that it could reach out and kill Alco. He'd get her right arm out of its blind spot. By intuition alone, Alco rolled over to the puppet's right flank. Its arm was still embedded within the wall. From here, it could not attack. She had made the right decision, and her dizziness faded. Cast off righteousness, lay piety to rest. We beasts are meant to consume each other. Life is but a decoration. Throw away your intellect. Pain powers the mind. Alco pulled herself back up. It was her turn. What? It was only innocent. Within this labyrinth of mirrors, she saw an image of herself. We die. Oh! Sheesh. A blinding, brilliant light flashed. Lacerations appeared across the walls. At the last moment, Alco managed to thicken the magical energy running through her veins into a primitive form of magecraft resistance and just barely saved her life from what must have been the puppet's ace in the hole. Why, you? The puppet bore a striking resemblance to Alco. This powerful curse was not satisfied with stopping Alco's heart, but destroying her entire being. Alco did not even have the time to be shocked. This was a chance for a counterattack, was it though? The puppet's balance was unsteady, its right arm still embedded in the wall. Alco prepared to give its defenseless body a strong kick, but her knees buckled and she collapsed into a heap on the floor. In slumber I live, in dirt I rot, alone. Today is the day I died and was born. I come to you. A sudden nausea and lightheadedness overcame Alco. Her body temperature began to rapidly lower. This whole time it was spreading its curses the whole time! She noticed too late. The puppet's curses encircled the hall. The cursed chant that the puppets used as a source of power doubled as a defense mechanism, crippling those who drew near with illness. She bore the full brunt the entire time she was in close proximity to it. Although Alco had magic circuit, she was succumbing just as Sojiro had. Languidly, she forced her deteriorating body to jump back. Not done yet! With all the energy she could muster, she forced her way past the exhaustion caused by the curse. However, Alco's blood pressure took a steep nosedive, not from the curse-induced anemia, but from what appeared in front of her. They stood in perfect harmony. In front of Alco was the automata that shared her face, its left arm held out like an arrow. The deadly weapon shot forward and boned in at her heart. And boned in? Boned in! Honed in. Then a moment before it made contact. Watch out! Yeah, figured that would happen at some point, it just wasn't when I predicted. The moment she heard that fearless voice, completely out of place in the storm of violence, Alco's body was pulled forcefully to one side. Once again, the extending arm cut through the empty air. While the puppet quickly retracted its left arm, Sojiro took the brief opportunity to take Alco by the hand and flee at full speed. Epic. Epic gamer moment, dude. Sojiro ran through the corridor as fast as he could, only stopping when he had put enough distance between them and the puppet. I was thinking, and though he had saved her, she looked angry rather than grateful. This did not keep Sojiro from saying his piece. Tomorrow is going to be a really busy day for me, so in other words, let's finish this today. A rather awkward proposal. Alco remained silent. She was also rather angry, not that she could not figure out what made him tick, nor because he returned after escaping, not even because he was spouting his typically airheaded lines. It was, she supposed, that instant. The fact that when he grabbed her hand, her mind had gone completely blank. Alco found it unforgivable. Which beckoned the response. Are you insane? In the heat of the moment, she blurted it before she could stop herself. Or maybe you've got a death wish. Don't you realize that either of us could kill you with a snap of a finger? At the very least, I don't owe you a damn thing. Saving my life doesn't change a thing between us. Sandra nodded, clearly unperturbed. Don't worry, Azaki. It's not told me anything. It's that you're more ruthless than that. She found herself slightly offended. But I think you need to get one thing straight. That thing isn't just trying to kill you. I think it's trying to kill me as well. She was having none of it. Her eyes shot daggers his way. And before you chew me out, you need to know something. Do you remember the first floor entrance at the end of that long corridor? Well, it's blocked. Tried best to find a way out, but no luck. There was no choice but to turn right back. Alka's eyes widened ever so slightly in amazement. She felt admiration rather than shock that her enemy would go to such lengths. And besides, it was hostile to me too earlier. I can tell by how it was glaring at me. Well, it happened so fast that I didn't really get a good look at it, but it was really unsettling. You should be careful, that thing. She sure has a terrifying face. Like, it's my face! Gee, thanks. You bet. I mean, I can't pretend like this isn't happening to me. Whichever of you wins, I'm a dead man either way, right? I can't argue with that. If it's willing to go as far as to seal off the entrance, then it'll probably kill any witnesses as well. At least that's what I'd do. Right? I don't want her to be the one who kills me. Wait, what? His words were decisive. As Alka looked up at him, she could swear he was trying to encourage her. It was then that she realized. Sandra was looking even worse than before. Hey, are you okay? Well, I'm better than if I'd drunk an entire bottle of soy sauce. He tried to make light of the situation, but his forehead was clearly drenched in sweat. Right, it's because we were close to the pub just now. How could he possibly be able to withstand a curse that made even Alka nauseous? She bit her lip and annoyed herself for not noticing this earlier. Sandra was such an airhead that she hadn't even paused to consider his plight. Why didn't you consider trying to hide down in the basement? That would have been the safest bet, wouldn't it? She really could not understand him at all. You should really take your own advice sometimes. But hey, there's no time to be chatting. She'll catch up at any moment. He turned and looked down the corridor. The crackling sounds of music box could be heard creeping forth from the darkness. I was thinking about this while I was on the first floor earlier. If it kills you, I'm next. That's why we should deal with it first. What are you getting at? She asked a question to which she already knew the answer. She didn't put him to the test. If he wavered even a little, she would have killed him where he stood. My proposal is if I agree to help you kill that thing, will you let me go? I thought I made it clear that helping me wasn't going to change my mind. And besides, what do you think you're going to do with it? Don't do it anyway. Oh, that's your end of the bargain. This is your area of expertise, right? The commander, who had the overall picture, was responsible for delegating roles to their teammates. It was futile to depend on someone who was unable to grasp the situation or evaluate the enemy's strength, so Drew was proud to share that he knew this. He spoke the truth. Alka was the only one who knew both Sojiro and the automata. That was why he pointed out that following her orders to the best of his ability was the only thing he could do. It may have seemed as though Sojiro had surrendered his capacity for self-thought, but accepting that he was helpless, he was in fact giving Alka his complete trust. Fine then, so I'll do exactly what I tell you to do. I will, and just so you know, I'm not doing this out of a sense of obligation or anything. It's just obvious that neither of us had a chance on our own. This is goodwill or kindness, it's a transaction. His eyes sparkled as if this was bartering in its truest form. Oh my god. This child must have learned that from Tomaru, Alka thought. Though she refused to let him see it, she smiled inwardly. Sure, he had got the best of her just now, but there were times when defeat was not the worst outcome in the world. Honest pay for honest work makes sense. And I hate to admit it, but... She relaxed her shoulders and sighed. Her face cracked into a wicked grin as if her fears had suddenly washed away. Your plan is just my style. Alka repaid Sojourner's trust in equal measure. End of chapter. Nope. God, is this going to be one of those 2-hour-long chapters? It's already been an hour. Just so you know, this is going to be pretty tough for you. Alko warned Sojiro, moving as fast as she could without her footfalls causing a din of noise. Sojiro remained near the centre of the spiral maze on the second floor. I'll let you know a secret. I have another trap on my sleeve. I think I might have gone overboard with this one, but when it didn't show up on time, I just couldn't help myself. A trap for me? Sojiro tilted his head like a squirrel as Alko freely discussed the fine lace up his sleeve. Oh, it's the method. I engraved an ignition formula into the support pillars in the basement. If I ignite the central pillar, it will start a chain reaction that will ignite the rest. I made it before that thing started jamming me, so if I infuse it with a bit of magical energy, it'll go boom. Sojiro was a little unsettled by how unclear that last bit was. Azaki, could you, clarify? I don't know how much you were going to blow me up. Please be honest. Also, did I make a mistake agreeing to team up with you? Don't be silly, it was just an insurance policy, yeah. I just thought that if I lost sight of you at any point, I could blow the old building and you with it. That was funny. It was her policy to be thorough to a fault, after all. She laughed, embarrassed to hear herself say it out loud. Don't you think that's overkill? Faced with Algo's cruelty, Sojiro forgot about the situation at hand and protested from the bottom of his heart. Stop complaining. At least now we have a way to fight back. She shot back. Algo dashed down the corridor, mumbling things that would probably have sent Sojiro packing if he heard them. The strategy was simple. Alco would use the escape route to the right and avoid the puppet while making her way down to the basement. Upon reaching the central pillar, she would infuse the formula she had prepared with magical energy and escape. Once ignited, it would take about a minute for the chain reaction to spread throughout the whole house of mirrors and another minute for the building to collapse. She would be cutting it a little close, but because she had committed the maze to be mirrors, she was sure she'd make it out in time. Alco assumed that the chain reaction caused by the pillar would clear the barrier that the puppet had placed at the entrance, and even if it was strong enough to withstand the blast, it would not be able to stay standing once the foundations buckled. So Drill's escape was assured as long as the formula in the basement was activated. Next came the most important part. The automaton was at a disadvantage in the obstacle-laden house of mirrors and was unable to move at full speed. If it was near the centre of the second floor when the building collapsed, it would be caught up and crushed by it. So the problem was keeping the puppet on the second floor until Alco could make it down to the basement. Counting on you. I just need to keep it occupied for 30 minutes. Ideally, he would be able to keep it busy until she could activate the formula. If that failed to work, him luring it down to the first floor would be the next best thing. She understood perfectly well the danger she was putting Sojiro in, but his lucky streak and running speed were nothing to scoff at. As long as all he has to do is run, then maybe, just maybe, he can actually pull this off. Alco made her way through the hidden passage of the maze, her hopes pinned on Sojiro. Meanwhile, well out of earshot, Sojiro was readying himself for another desperate chase. He calmed his beating heart and using a method of his own making. What mattered most was that he remained calm. The plan was simple enough, and Alco's orders were succinct and easy to understand. Yes, just let me look something up real quickly. Succinct. Whatever. Well, succinct, I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce it. Anyway, not succinct. Succinct or something, whatever. Keep a distance of around 30 feet and weave through the corridors as slowly as you can 3 or 4 times. Count the mirrors as you move to locate the hidden passage from here and there. Here, they are on the 6th, 3rd, 7th, and 2nd mirrors counterclockwise. Use those and you should be relatively safe. It was essentially a looping marathon. As long as Sojiro kept just enough distance from the puppet's extended arm to allow her to track him, she could continue to chase him indefinitely. Simple that the task was, Sojiro was putting his life on the line as bait. And then there was the final order to run as fast as he could to the exit when the building began to sway. It's more than just a little tough. He nervously stuck his head out from around the corner. He could hear the sound of the music box from the other side of the corridor. First he had to make eye contact with her, then head through the shortcut on the right and begin their game of tag. He spotted it and braced himself. Closer, closer. Fearing that her arm could fly at him any moment, he went over Alco's instructions in his head. Wait. However, I don't quite remember which pane led to the first hidden passage. Oh, for the love of... The 3rd, the 6th? I think it was the 6th. No. He was sure that was mistaken. He was confident he had it memorized moments ago, but his nerves had got the best of him, and his head was now spinning. Then, Sojiro realized that the sound of his pursuer was beginning to grow distant, and at an incredible speed. What the shit? What's it doing now? The unusual silhouette of the puppet astonished him, before it had taken the form of a beautiful girl. But now it made a bizarre transformation. I returned to the first floor to pursue a primary target. Oh, this isn't the plan. So Drew was no longer sure what to do. Before he'd even had time to mourn his failure, the puppet had vanished out of sight. I'll help, so there we go. Or so he had said, but now he could not follow through. So what am I supposed to do now? Alone he tilted his head in frustration. He spoke to the darkness as if Alco would be there to answer him. Oh boy, it turned into like a spider thing. Meanwhile, downstairs, as soon as she arrived on the first floor, Alco understood what had transpired above her. She did not even have to strain her ears to hear the puppet. Even during its heyday, this attraction had never made sounds like the one she heard coming toward her now. It was a sound of despair, as if a horde of monstrous hedgehogs were scraping their way past the hedgehogs in their direction. The mirrors in their direction. That's 3 minutes, it could even last 10 seconds. Rather than buying her time, Sojiro had instead stolen hers. He had one job, to run away. That was all. She cursed under her breath. Is it going to come from the floor? Multiple footsteps. So it switched from bipedal to multi-leg form? The echoes made it sound like dozens of feet were approaching. Alco's mind conjured an image of a giant six-legged spider tearing its way down the corridor. That is what it is. It's little wonder that it was so much faster than before. Its perception of its surroundings through echolocation was of particular use in the dark. Compared to sight-dependent humans, this automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. If it could not keep pace earlier, that had been because its bipedal mode made it less maneuverable. Now the stability provided by multiple legs gave it a speed that far exceeded that of any human. What now? What now? Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with a plan B. What she knew for sure was that this was a pivotal moment. If she continued standing still, she had seconds left at most. Even in her current state, she knew she could easily neutralize the bounded fields blocking the entrance without casting a spell. All she had to do was feed a little of her own energy into it. Alco could sprint with all her might for a little more than 3 minutes. The puppet had far more stamina than she did. She only come up with 3 options. The first was to escape through the exit in front of her. The second was to hide somewhere on the more complicated first floor, and the third was to run into the basement and be stuck like a rat in a trap. Well, that's obvious enough. She made a decision with zero hesitation, moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. Her resolve firm, she turned and ran, descending into the darkness. Into the basement she goes. No matter what, a finale should be glorious. This will be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran towards the subterranean heart of the castle, while an autonomous antique chased its prey into the depths of a demonic dungeon. Whoa. A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple through the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. Though not critical to the castle's structure, the pillar was a visible symbol of it. The girl concentrated her magical energy into a fist and thrust it at the pillar. This was the blow that would bring down the castle. She imagined the destruction as she threw the punch, and that scene blossomed into reality seconds later. It was simple ignition magecraft, meant to release the condensed magical energy engraved into the 4 pillars at the corners of the structure. Using electricity as a switch meant virtually instantaneous activation. Whoa. It happened swiftly and elegantly. A hammer of destruction descended upon the castle of dreams that had stubbornly resisted its fate for 2 years. Ooh. It was almost a joyous sound, and so the lifeless and abandoned castle of mirrors set the stage for its final and most spectacular performance. Alco's magical energy became an electrical charge that activated the magecraft formula and engraved into the pillar. The chain reaction would lead to the castle's destruction. Served your purpose. But it must have been rough. Looks like you're going to collapse any time now. The plaza in the center of the basement. Alco tried to steady her breathing while rotating a magic crest at full speed. She wreathed her arms in blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula. Whoa, that thing was creepy as fuck. Whoa. Her labored breathing refused to settle. She stood at the center of the basement. That being spotted even once, she managed to make it all the way to the central pillar. It was a 100-meter dash in 13 seconds flat, undoubtedly a new personal best. She spurred on her weakened heart, knowing full well the fate that awaited her. Can't help but follow me. It was down here, there'll be no escape. Should have expected that. It was too much to expect that I could keep up the chase forever. Hindsight was 2020. The castle was only a minute away from collapsing completely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. Puppet certainly did not care. No life of its own, its sole concern was the elimination of its target, Aoko Alzaki. Indeed, the enemy had been willing to die from the start. She resented her own lack of resolve. It wasn't like her to tuck tail and run from an opponent that didn't fear death. Oh my god! In slumber I live, in dirt I rot. Today the day I died was born, now I come to you. It's always been on a suicide mission, huh? There's never enough juice to power the six-legged form in the Finn's shots. Kisses aren't recharging it fast enough. Such a perpetual motion device is only as good as its stability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions at once meant it was burning through the fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. It was using up all of the functions that had been given to achieve its aim. This was the pride of a tool, if such things could never ego. Those endowed with sentience could never hope to understand. A beast born to do nothing but run would burn any human who faced its resolve. It's wasted when you think about it. I thought my sister was the only one capable of something this reckless, but I guess I was wrong. But Aoko did not intend to sacrifice play here. Is her sister the mastermind? She respected her adversary now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste. This is it. This ends now. Does it now? Ooh. Aoko had every intention of paying it back double for what it had done to her. The energy Aoko had accumulated exploded out of her right leg. She aimed for a single thing, head-on attack. The enemy responded with a lethal curse that reached for her heart like a set of talons. Humming with power meant to rend Aoko's heart and burn herself out in the process. As soon as she saw it, Aoko kicked the floor as hard as she could. Her long hair swirled through the air as she flipped aside. This lateral move almost sent her tumbling to the ground, but a quick swing of her arm allowed her to regain her balance. Whoa, a shock grazed her arm, the curse scorching her left shoulder. She did not flinch. Aoko knew she could hold on as long as she continued to avoid a direct Finn shot. Snap. Snap. Snap! Him. Off balance and in pain, it took her half a second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fist full of magical energy. Here goes. The puppet had a will of its own. Its eyes would have popped right out of its sockets. It would have been floored. Shocked at the strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this. Ako's response was instantaneous. While her power was not sufficient to completely redirect the arm's trajectory, it was just enough to deflect it harmlessly past her hair. It was all a mistake. I should never have been born. Atone for me, atone for me, atone for me. The chant became a curse that robbed Aoko of her vitality. Oh shit. Whoa. Did it still have something left in the tank, or was it actually indignant? Whatever the reason was, Aoko was easily able to resist its weakened defensive maneuver. Whoa, what is going on? Smack. And her right leg, pulsing with magical energy, shot up into the puppet's chest from below. It was much lighter than Aoko anticipated. Or rather, she felt little resistance. The automaton's weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was the superiority of its music box engine that would prove to be its downfall. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to my grave. You die for a single kick, bitch? A stuttering kiss. Having taken the full brunt of Aoko's kick, the puppet bounced from ceiling to floor, collapsing in a heap. Its internal construction had been warped by the impact, leaving the drum of the music box that powered the puppet warped as well. Take the design flaws up with your maker. I think that dynamo would have been all you needed to... Wait, what the... Part of the ceiling came crashing down in front of Aoko, snapping her back to her senses. Did I really just take her out? She was so stunned by her own victory that she forgot the House of Mirrors had already begun to collapse. I've got to get out of here. Yeah, you think, eh? There was no time to relish in her victory or pity her opponent. Not only she wanted to meet the same fate. The situation stirred, she found it hard to imagine getting out alive. Gotta move on, Alco. She clapped herself on the cheeks to motivate herself anew. This was her bounty for finishing the battle in a matter of seconds. Her breath ragged with excitement, Alco ran for the exit. Excitement. Excitement? Ooh. The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight. Out of my way! Out of my way! Whoa! Escaping from the basement was proving to be no easy task. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by a falling piece of the ceiling along the way. This was the second time, no third, she had to deal with fallen rubble along the way. She destroyed the debris on the stairs with magic bullets as she ran. The automaton's jamming had long since worn off. The earlier attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. Kaboom. Alco's breathing was heavy as she ran. Desperation sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing into slow motion. Life seemed to flash before her very eyes. Each second stretched into 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to tell the time. Uh-oh. There was debris riddled throughout the stairway, forcing her to crawl up it. She emerged from the debris destroyed basement to the collapsing first floor. That the plaza was still traversable, the all was a miracle in itself. And fortunately for her, the crucial path to the exit was still intact. I made it! The corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor wouldn't collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surrounding intact. She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that fate would decide whether or not she'd reach the plaza. Her gamble paid off. It was a lucky day. All she had to do was muster the last of her strength and keep moving forward until... She hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivety? A sense of responsibility? She pushed aside the image that popped into her head and continued to run down the corridor. We don't have the luxury of coordinating the timing with each other to pull this off. It's not the greatest plan in the world, but we both need to do our best and get to the exit as quickly as possible. That was 5 minutes ago. At the time, Sanjuro had nodded with trepidation. And Alco had not bothered to ask herself why. What are you spacing out for? Just focus on running! This corridor was giving out too. If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing under her. She was also sure she had no time to waste doing so. Her luck was fading as fast as the building's structural integrity. It was a small miracle that she had escaped serious injury up to this point, and she could not afford even the slightest slip-up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, or even a knees would be fatal. Some pound in the back was enough to end it. So naturally... Oh. There it was, clear as day. From the detritus of the stairway, death had risen to take her down with it. A corpse that had crawled its way up from the depths of hell itself. It was still operational. It was still armed with curses. It crawled after her, watching as Alco desperately tried to save herself. Pump-Time shot forward. While Alco did not turn to meet it, she could see its reflection in the mirrors. Extend, extend, extend. This time she could not dodge it. There was absolutely nothing she could do. Puppet with her face sang, I invite you to die a bloody death. Becomes whispering dust. Gouge out your heart. Corporativo. Death be upon you. What? For a moment she could not believe her eyes. It was the last thing she'd expected to see. Don't know when to give up, do you? A fixed expression told the face of the boy who had been waiting in the plaza, and he smashed the puppet's outstretched arm. Anger really did not suit him at all. His weapon of choice was a fire extinguisher. Of course it was! He must have searched the maze for something to use as a weapon. No, never mind that. It was too crazy to contemplate, but had he stayed behind for her? Alco stopped the feet she had sworn would never stop moving. and extended a hand out to him. Leave it, we have to go! Sojiro tossed the fire extinguisher aside and took off running. Whoa! This is crazy! Pieces of the ceiling continued to collapse like dominoes. They kept moving with dust and dirt following their wake. Their shadows raced through the collapsing corridor with all their strength. Their shadows. Just the shadows? The castle was in the throes of death. With a massive crash and a cloud of dust, the final chapter of the fairy tale that had been Kitsyland came to an abrupt end. Not the end of the chapter, still. This duel to the death was over. For a moment, amidst their swirling emotions, any past enmity was forgotten, to collapse on the lawn and basked in strange solidarity. The ringing in their ears subsided before long. A tremor of such magnitude seemed impossible in an amusement park like this. As the sounds of destruction echoed across the park, Alco addressed the individual at her side. Hey, you alive? Yeah. While the click of her tongue was adorable, the meaning behind it was anything but. Saki, what happened to that thing? What do you think was crushed to bits? Sojiro sighed, not wholly relieved by a frank response. His reason... Never mind that thing. You should be worrying about yourself. He wasn't out of the woods yet, after all. Saki, I'm guessing you were a bit of a bully as a kid. Maybe, but I don't get a kick out of seeing people suffer. Never mind that. Do you know the situation you're in right now? She sat up and smiled. Sojiro hung his head in shame, wondering why her kind tone and expression was so chilling. Please accept my sincerest apologies. Oh no, don't you even start. You know what our agreement was. A deal is a deal. If you held up your end of the bargain, I let you go. Exactly. That's why I'm apologizing. Sojiro made a show of avoiding her eyes, like a pouting child. Akko was taken aback by this sulky display. Perhaps he was angry at himself rather than her. He was not mad because she would not let him go. He was mad that he had not done his part. Akko sighed for what seemed like the millionth time that day. She could not figure out what surprised her more, his unconditional kindness or her naive approval of it. So, are you ready? Of course not, but a promise is a promise. In the end, I failed to do my part. Certainly the case that he failed to do any of the things she had expected of him. But just then she glanced back at the collapsed house of mirrors. What had he done after failing so spectacularly? He had searched for the extinguisher so he could use it as a weapon, and waited patiently in the plaza as the maze collapsed all around him just because he thought it was wrong to leave it behind. It was a foolish choice, and the exact opposite of her choice to run towards the exit with hesitation. I suppose I'll take it. She was satisfied even as she was shocked at how naive she was being. It was true that he had saved her. She smiled inwardly, admiring, if only for a moment, the bravery he continued to show in the face of such extreme circumstances. You may have blown your chance, but you did make up for it after the fact. I'll keep my promise. With a nod, she pulled herself to her feet. But you'll pay back this favor someday. The girl tried to keep a straight face as she offered her hand to the boy still lying on the ground. You managed to help me in the end. So because of that, I'll let you off the hook. For tonight. She bashfully averted her gaze. Though her profile appeared differently than it had in the past, it was clearly still the face of the vibrant girl he met the day he first arrived in town. What are you staring at? As if she had felt his eyes on her, she shot him a frowning glare. Oh, sorry, it's just as crazy as to say out loud. You really are a fair person. He took her outstretched hand. Feeling his weight as she pulled him up, she could not help but think that he was about the last person she wanted to hear that from. By the way, you said you'd let me off the hook for tonight. What about tomorrow? Well, we'll just have to see. She shrugged her shoulders as if she was not sure herself. The response was so unlike her that it made Sojiro smile. Was it the solidarity of having escaped death together, or their fleeting camaraderie that made him do so? It might have been for this night only, but the air between them was kind and gentle. A lot transpired, but the midwinter nightmare had come to an end. The pair had overcome many trials and tribulations and could now leave the mirror realm in their wake. But before that... How selfish of you. And who, may I ask, said you could decide that, Alco? The hell? Oh, it's just Alice, okay. She's been here. It was the voice of a beautiful songbird and a merciless machine, all rolled into one. Aris. If it was quiver, she spoke the name. Whoa, she looks like a demon! What? I mean, I didn't mention that earlier. The lady in black made her presence known. The night was not yet over. Her name was Alice Kuonji. She was a witch whose name struck fear into the heart of Alco. Avatar of the night, who would allow no witnesses. And in chapter? Yeah, in chapter, Night of the Witches 2. Cool, I can do the video here. And it's 1:30 and I really should get up, yeah. I do hope you enjoyed this episode of Witch on the Holy Night. I'm going to try and do at least one chapter a day, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that since the chapters do vary in length, like drastically vary in length. That one is just under 2 hours long. But I do hope you enjoyed this video nonetheless, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.